What's going on, guys? It is Madman Plant, and we are back here in my office because my podcast studio is currently being painted and torn apart. So there wouldn't be a whole lot to see because nothing's really in that room anymore. But the good news is we are painting and everything will be back together for our first live in person where we're having a CEO fly down. Jay from Dry Flower will be visiting us from the 13th to the 15th here. Also, we'll be doing some things in Washington, D.C. with him. We'll be doing some yoga, which is very big for him. And it'd be really cool as our gold sponsor for our Grow series. Dry Flower is an awesome company, and we're going to show you another harvest takedown. So we're going to be taking down the 4x8 grow tent, which last time yielded 5 pounds. Now, unfortunately, not all grows are equal, and this grow is a little bit smaller, but the profiles, the trichomes, the bud, it's all there. And that's why people spend years and years pheno hunting, finding these plants to do the exact same thing over and over again, because when you go from something really good and then it changes, it can leave you wondering maybe you did something wrong. But no, the garden's fine. We did run into a little bit of issue. Oops, I already got one out. With a little bit of cow mag, and a couple people spotted that out early. But besides the browning of the leaves, when it comes to the actual bud structure and what the plant actually looks like, I don't see the difference. So those naysayers who say the plant is damaged and suffering, maybe it may be starting a little bit in growth, but when it comes to the integrity of the actual bud and what we're smoking on, everything looks really, really good. And that's another thing too, is the realization that we're not always going to have perfect gardens. You know, one of the biggest things is being like a scientist in your own garden. And some plants work really good and they'll stay green all the way to it. Some plants, you know, they'll be great during veg, and then as soon as you get into flower, they can be very finicky. But one thing I do love about, and some of the things of, are expressions, especially when you get those really high yellows, purples, reds. Sometimes you even get tints of blue in there, and it can be really, really nice. My last harvest, which was the creature panic before the booty clapper, all those leaves look like a red maple tree. So it was really awesome to see how the plant turned red on me. And when we went to bubble wash, the water was actually purple, which was really, really good. And honestly, I think you should bottle that up and put it in a drink because it tastes very good too. Now, the Grow series is up. We are now waiting on the roots. On Sunday coming up, we will have our first deep water culture class, which I'm really excited about. We're going to go over the unit, the different parts, how deep water culture works, and showing off our genetics. We're going to be running the Tropical Trooper, and we're also going to be running the Tropicana Cherry, which are two great strands ran side by side with each other, GI genetics. And I believe it's Tropicana Cherry is from Pharms. Correct me if I'm wrong. I will have to follow up with my good friend 804 who gave me that clone cut. But Tropicana Cherry is one of my favorites. Probably my all-time favorite was Cherry Avenue, which was by Envy Genetics, which is still around. You can still get packs, but the company doesn't exist anymore. Tonight, we're smoking on the Booty Clapper. And I'm running down, which is why I'm really excited about my next harvest, because I have the Mississippi Hippie by Loving in Her Eyes. So with this deep water culture, Current Culture H2O is our silver sponsor, and they are a great company. They've been around for over about 20 years and pretty much developed DWC. So from growing to hang drying all in one environment, whether it's your tent or your grow room, we're going to show you just that. And we're about to have Daniel, the owner of Current Culture, on the show. We'll also have TC, the rep that I deal with, who is really awesome as well. So, guys, it's going to be a really awesome grow series, and we have a lot of education. I've never done deep water culture before, so I'll be learning in real time while I'm teaching you guys. And that should show you the ease of use of these systems and how, whether you're growing in soil, cocoa, soilless, or whatever, the growing and the styles are pretty much the same. It's the concept and the fundamentals that we master that make everything easier in our gardens. Tonight, we're going to be joined by Brian Holler from Beard Bros Farms, and we met Beard Bros a couple times at MJ BizCon. They were kind enough to give me press passes to their Planet 13 event at MJ BizCon this year, which went very, very well. They're a great company, and without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Brian. How's it going, my dude?
Oh, doing well, sir. Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. About to spark up my first King Palm. King Palm is one of our smoke sponsors, and they're always hooking us up with all types of packs. So tonight we're checking out the lemon kiwi.
Sure.
And the minis hold 1 gram each, so it's pretty nice.
I heard what you had rolled up, so that's pretty exciting. I'm a big fan of King Palms as well. I just like how they hold. I like to roll what I can, but generally speaking, I just like to grind and stuff. And so I don't find any much better resource than a King Palm to do that. So cheers to them. And I've seen all the different options they've been coming out with. I'm like OG with them. Like a few years ago when they only had like the 3 initial sizes that they would come out with. Now they're really cooking. So anyhow, kudos to them.
Yeah, they actually, believe it or not, they go all the way down to a 0.5, so half a gram, all the way up to a 10 gram.
They have a 10 gram one?
Yep. It's the 4XL, I believe it's called, because these are the minis. The XLs are 2 grams, the triple XL are 3 grams. The 4XL is 5 grams, and then I think the 6XL is 10 grams.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, what I like about King Palm personally is I'm not a nicotine guy and I'm not a tobacco guy. And you can have the same type of aroma and experience with the King Palm when people are going heavy on backwoods, which I give them credit for. I just tap out with a light head and start feeling a little bit nauseous because they're heavy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think it's good that there's options, right? A true blunt obviously is, wrapped with, nicotine, at least, core purpose of one or the reason for they were existed. But it's good to have alternatives,
and also
certainly if you don't smoke or take nicotine, just the nicotine in a wrap could really mess up your experience for sure. So.
But for those who do like nicotine, King Palm also has a nicotine lineup. So you can still get your full flavor or your full nicotine, even if you still stick with King Palm.
So there you go. So covering their bases. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah, they also have these, which are pretty cool. And these come with flavored rolling tips and their own papers.
Nice.
So, they have a whole bunch of cool products. So what's up with you? You've been traveling. You were in Spannabis. And you were, let's see here. Where else did I see you?
We were in Coachella Valley. We went to Hall of Flowers, Ventura after that. Yep. And then we went to Nican, Boston after that. And that spit us out into, I guess, last week. And now it's been a week since we've been home, I suppose. Lots of traveling. We're blessed to have a lot of products in 3 markets. Flower in Canada. We'll be in a few more states at the end of this year. So. Be prepared for some cool announcements down the line when we're able to give them. But then media clients we've been getting, at a pretty rapid pace and in many, many markets. So even more reason for us to continue to be everywhere. In fact, we'll have presence at ICBC Berlin here at the end of April, and then we'll be at NECAN, Candidelic, Florida. We'll be at Benzinga, Chicago in June. So, just sort of heating up, as it were.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I plan this year. I'm trying to hit as many events as possible, but we're also focused on the Grow series. So sitting here growing. So in March in May we'll be in California for the American Auto Flower Cup.
Nice.
And then also we're going to be going to New York. I'm hosting a mental health panel. I'm teaching a deep water culture class. And I'm also having my full podcast booth set up in New York at the Home Growers Championship event. And that's going to be really cool. And yeah, I was sad that I missed Nikan. Usually I don't miss Nikan.
That's how we know each other.
I know. Right? This is
So,
my first time in 4 years missing Nikan. And last year we were at all Nikan shows with our booth space and presence and had a really great opportunity. And, you know, it's one of those things where I truly believe when it comes to branding, and you guys are, you know, very hip to this, is getting out there, building that national and then global presence. You know, working and playing where you live is so great until you realize the rest of the world is out there. And, you know, I always find, you know, a lot of love and support every time I go somewhere new. And that really opens you up, you know. And I think for people that aren't doing that, especially in brands and businesses, they're leaving a lot of money on the table by not shaking hands. You know, one thing about it, and even through Nikan, when we were working with them, you know, doing their videos and testimonials for people that were attending the events, is, you know, you'd be on an email thread with somebody for 3 to 6 months, and then you meet them there in person, and then it all comes together. You know what I mean? And that's the being able to track them down and put them right there.
I love that part about it for sure. You know, working with people all across the place. I think in our case, we were just really sort of fortunate that legal market opened up when it did in California, as it turned out, because Jeff and Bill were like, well, and that's the beard bros themselves, are Jeff and Bill. If they were thinking, well, okay, how do we bring attention to our now brand that we can actually, you know, sort of sell products with? And it was like, oh, well, we have been in the know for a while. Growers also hit to sort of LA business, you know, etc. Why wouldn't we just have a media outlet, or, you know, start messing around with like our own website and some socials to just start talking about what we know, see, right, do. And then, of course, that sort of gained fire for everybody, of course, as that opened up. And we were right in there in front of all of it, and just kept being that resource for people. And then at a point just grew to a place where we could really provide a lot of value and services for the people over time. You know, but that's really due to the hard work of, you know, Bill and Jeff to essentially bring attention to the products that the brand itself, you know. And so for us to be sort of fortunate in that spot, for them to have that sort of vision to like really just push out a ton of content around all these areas, people that are in newer markets for us look at us as a resource already. So it helps us when we're basically, you know, trying to grow into those markets to be able to already be known. It's super helpful. One thing that's been great about Nikan is just kind of immersing ourselves more in the Northeast, which, you know, the guys are from Pennsylvania originally. So there's a lot of, you know, ties to the East, and we continue to want to grow. And like I said, we have a lot of different markets. And honestly, what we can provide, you know, essentially leads and exposure, well, and advertising options, well, that can be done for everybody. So,
well, not only that too, but, you know, it's one thing to come into this space as a creator, an influencer, a patron, but then also reinvent yourself as a professional in the space, create the content that supports, you know, what you're talking about, all the education and the resources. And then also too is, for instance, when we first came into cannabis, we did 3D printing. You know, our first year as a 3D company, we did $30,000 in sales within 13 different countries. Now, the profit to ratio didn't work out, so we don't do 3D printing anymore. We changed the education. But one of those things is you go into these things and then you learn how the industry is run. You learn who key players are. You learn kind of the ways of what makes money, what makes sense, what people actually care about. And if you're smart enough, you take all that information and you run back to the drawing board and you do something with that. You know, the biggest thing is being able to utilize this in a sense that it's like, okay, well, now where do I go from here? And, you know, that's one thing that I love about news, media content, talking about different industries, getting to know different companies and people, is you can really get a real gain sense of, how do I provide value in this space? What is value to people and what creates that, you know, because I always say that cannabis is a spectrum. Right. It's all over the place, whether your involvement is very little to just smoking to whether you're a huge, industry cultivator slash, marketer, whatever. And the value of it is we all have the equal opportunity, but who's actually taking the time to professionalize their message, to professionalize their offering. And that's where I feel like the biggest impact is at the end of the day, I think a lot of people see cannabis as like one thing, but it's not. Cannabis is in a lot of different things. And that's why I love marketing and advertising and trying to understand business, because you see how diverse things are. And one thing I love about Nican is, who's your average cannabis user? Nican, MJ BizCon, Bazinga, all of these people who look like everybody that you meet in Starbucks is your cannabis user, and you get to see the truth for what it is.
That's right. Ultimately we saw a lot of, I don't know, we're pretty fortunate to have a team. I was fortunate to be in a space where I was the perfect age to segue into, the industry in a formal way, I guess I'll say. Like 8 years ago when I did, I had, a lot of formal education, but I also came up with not much and around a lot of folks who, grew and new folks. And, and I've certainly been a consumer since I was a kid, since I was younger. And so that, I think, combined to give me an outlook, plus the experience I had, with high-level management consultants, learning how to actually grow businesses of all kinds and all different shapes and all different earning levels, including the highest levels of earning, helped me just basically understand very easily how to adapt and how to pivot and to create systems within organizations that are agile and super process oriented, but also malleable. Because that's what you need, I think, in emerging markets or ones that are still developing, even, the core sort of regulations for and things like that, right? Like we still work in if you're in cannabis, you work in an industry where you can sell across state lines. Like what? Those are like big hindrances that cause a lot of problems. And you really need to know how to navigate the waters in a lot of ways. One of the things that we certainly focus on is, sort of connecting the right people to each other, right? It's part of what we do. We're literally paid to do it, because through content, lead gen, right? Other aspects of advertising, right? Digital ads, promotion, sometimes direct sales even, depending on the business or the retailer, or, if they're using programmatic or something like that, which we do offer. We are able to essentially connect those dots for people and really be a sort of trusted resource that also can deliver. And that's all we wanted to really be able to do, to take advantage of all the hard work that we all do to continue to put out news and informative education, fun stuff too, and spotlights and, all sorts of good things. Cause, there's a lot of great stuff to talk about too, instead of just, it's not all doom and gloom, even though it is tough. So it's important for people to know what they're dealing with, or what operators are dealing with, or, how science or medicine maybe being prevented from progressing in the most positive way. So those are all things that we need to talk about. So we tend to run the gambit, which I think is why we're liked by sort of both sides of that equation that we talked about, and respected by them, which is, I think, more important, honestly, in our business.
I think it's important too, is especially in an industry that is so shunned, and when good things do happen, like let's say, hey, cannabis is shown to do XYZ in trials. Well, the mainstream media is not going to go ahead and go on a campaign and talk about how good all of a sudden cannabis is. But I think, the smaller journalistic, where the heart and the passion lie with the plant and also with the experience, and being able to tell those truths when you have a lot of people who are naysayers or, say don't believe in it. We have a wonderful governor, Youngkin, here, who would rather put his money into sports centers than allow legal cannabis, and I don't watch sports, neither does anybody in my family. So if you think that, building this multi-million-dollar sports center is going to drive revenue to somebody like me, it's not. But, I think too, is what you have to look at is we're getting to a time where I think immersion and being able to immerse somebody into it, whether they're just learning more, whether they smoke their first joint, whether they planted their first plant, is the biggest way to convince somebody. And I've always said that I feel like even with our governor, like God forbid, I would not want nothing to bad happen to his family, but let's say like someone that he loved got very sick. And then all of a sudden he learned, like a pastor who I know, who's okay with cannabis now, his daughter got cancer, started using cannabis. He found out that she was using cannabis, and now he smokes cannabis, but he was totally against it before. And nobody could have convinced him otherwise until he saw the healing power. And I just feel like with true media, whether it's podcasting, whether it's direct, ad, or whether it's, like in print, our ability to tell stories, to keep these case studies kind of relevant and in people's minds. I mean, how many people, when they get cancer, are they always like, well, I've heard about cannabis. You know what I mean? Why does it have to be in a situation where you think that you desperately need it? Why can't the clarity come beforehand? And I think as we move forward with more awareness, more immersion, people are going to be forced to recognize the value that maybe it's not all so bad.
I mean, that's certainly what we exist to sort of, do, is to sort of destigmatize in that fashion. We embrace, of course, the culture, the history, the real truth about, genetics or propaganda, etc. And the fun things about being, from a recreational standpoint, but we're also, really, really giving you the real on just sort of the science and medicinal aspects, political, like leanings, why that's influencing things, all part of informing, right? All part of sort of just providing a bunch of different channels that people can plug into where you're like, oh, these guys are cool, or these folks are cool. They know what they're talking about. They're full of people who are industry insiders. And they, I think, have the right outlook when it comes to respecting the audience that they're trying to culture, nurture, and cultivate, which are decision makers in plant medicine, hemp, cannabis, nutraceuticals, wellness, any businesses that supply that supply chain or contribute to it, and any service providers that provide it. And then, of course, just fans or people who are interested in those things for their own family, their own benefit, their own bodies, their own health, their own knowledge, right? So that's our audience. So that's who we, create for. Those people, the people who care about the plant, that want to see it grow, that are interested in tapping in. Whether it's new, we want to provide you access and points for you to feel comfortable to come on in and to learn. And no one here is going to treat you weird if you haven't been a hardcore stoner for 25 years. Like, that's not what we're here to do. We're here to embrace everybody that's really just about it and trying to learn and grow. And we happen to be people like yourself who've just been around for a long time and have seen a lot of different aspects of the business and understand kind of the plant, where we want it to go, where it should go, where it should reside. And fortunately, you have a lot of connections to folks that also agree with that and want to see things grow in a good way. So we have a great way of sort of enhancing that knowledge through clients and partners and our own internal needs. And to your point, it's done for that on purpose. Is we don't want to just talk to this many people. We want to talk to this many people. We want to talk to as many people as possible, because quite frankly, the more that people know about this, the more they can sort of find trusted information on it, and really accurate, honest. I think that helps, and helps contribute to exactly what you're talking about, which is making sure that people are at least given the real truth and then allowed to make decisions for themselves about their health needs. What if they'd like to do.
So what are some of the things that Beard Bros does to really help people and influencers? Is because you have products and then you have media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what makes us pretty unique in the space, and in a lot of spaces, actually. I mean, a lot of large media companies grow into having products, or certainly have swag and other things that are sort of make sense to sell when you have a large audience that travels.
What's branding?
Yeah, of course. In our case, right. In our case, it's sort of unique in that what we sell our RSO products. So I think people are really interested in why that would be. That allows for a lot of conversation around normalizing and working it into your own like daily schedule. That's why we did it. That's why growers who are known for growing fire flower would choose RSO products as their first legal products, right? Because they'd see it as the most medically efficacious, and most of the data would back that up in terms of RSO being sort of the best, most potent. When people think about, it helping with cancer or whatever, that's usually what they're taking is something that effective is a RSO or some sort of, really, really potent extract, that's, either concentrated or delivered in a dab or a tincture, something like that, or mixed with something probably. Anyhow, point is, they thought that was the most efficacious medicinally. Why would they do that? Well, because it's about healing people, really, when it comes down to it. We're creating a product. That sort of stance and that background makes us really unique in terms of having a media company that has basically grown large. It also affords us the opportunity to get very interesting and creative strategic partnerships with people who can help us roll out our products, of course, over different markets and stuff. So, and then of course, as we continue to grow as a resource, then we're able to promote in all sorts of different ways through things like programmatic ads or screens in your retail, or traditional stuff like content creation on long form articles or content or video content, or or even working with people like yourself to put together sort of comprehensive campaigns to sort of service your clients in an even more efficient way. We have a large organization because we're able to really grow with all people in the space in a lot of different ways. We're not everything to everybody, but we definitely we provide a service that we think most people at least have this much or this much dedicated to. And those things are usually around, in the media sense, around events, advertising, media, and sort of marketing budget, generally speaking. And most people need those things, some of those things or a lot of those things, and everybody needs leads and sales. So any way that you can tie that's really what ROI is about. And we picked a very good point to sort of integrate those things properly with our partners and people that we work with, and definitely our clients. So that, I think, makes us unique because we've been able to commoditize it in a way that's efficient for growing your business and helping you grow, and then tapping into our network and leveraging our platforms to do so as well. Because all the things that we would do for ourselves is what we're doing for our product line. So if you don't like how we do something, or if we're not doing it well enough, we're not doing it for ourselves then well enough, I guess. Right? It also gives us that credibility. We're not just selling you the service, we do it to ourselves. We use it for ourselves to promote the products. I think that gives a lot of validity to when we, talk to prospects and talk to people about working together.
I totally agree. Being a production company, we've been around since 2013. I've been smoking. I'm 36 now. I started smoking around 22, 23. I used to think weed made you dumb. And I was actually against it. I actually one time even made a girlfriend dump out a gram bag of weed because I was like, you need to choose me or the weed.
Unbelievable. Wow.
Oh, well, I used to want to be in law enforcement, and then my idea changed, and then I used to work at Papa John or Domino's, and I knew somebody that sold weed, and I was like, I think I want to try weed, and he's like, I'm not going to sell weed to you because he's like, you want to be a cop, and I was like, I changed my mind, and he's like, all right, fuck it, he's like, and then he gave me an eighth. And then when I first started smoking, I actually got so paranoid to the fact that I would actually have to sleep it off. And
sure.
it weirded me out. And when I first started doing it, one time I did late at night, and I thought I was having a heart attack. And I told my mom that I was like, I got really stoned and I think I'm going to die. And she's like, nobody's ever died from smoking weed. And I was like, okay then. And then I was like, well, if my friends can enjoy it, how come I can't enjoy it? So then I actually started smoking and just kind of working through the euphoria and the overloadness. Yep. Now I smoke 24/7. There's not a time when I'm not smoking.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where even with psychedelics, you're not only just learning a way to, like, let's say if you're trying to sleep better, or
Right.
if you have back pain, feel a little better. It's also learning to deal with yourself on a euphoric state where you are on a like an alternative, kind of vibe. And I think in a lot, that's why it does help with anxiety. That's
Yeah.
why, because when I get it hyped, the first thing I want to do is smoke, because then I feel calm again. Where before when I first started smoking, it freaked me out. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know why would anybody would want to do this, but it's the reprogramming and kind of like the relearning of the brain. But going back to the production thing is about ROI and everything like that. When it comes outside of cannabis, I've only been doing this for 4 years. I've, like you guys, I put everything I know in video production and marketing into my brand, and that left me on my tour. That's left for me to sponsorship. That's left for me to do a lot of different things. And it's one of these things where when you look at the true heart of business and cannabis, you don't see dumb stoners. You see very innovative individuals, especially people of all diverse backgrounds. And that's why I love the fact that these platforms exist, because when it comes to people like us who know how to provide value, know how to do ROI and content management and all these different things, it comes partnering up with them, and then it allows you to take something that you love. Oh, I love smoking weed, and turn that into a tangible product that's not selling weed, that's actually benefiting businesses, and then real world implications and success come from that, and you are able to grow as well. And that's one of the, I feel like, the most overlooked things in this industry is, like Eminem says, I'm just a kid from the gutter making his butter. And with the cannabis industry, if you know what you're looking for, this industry is so new still and still so developing. Your ability to carve out something niche and make it yours is still so much there, and it's being creative. It's thinking outside the box. And it's also thinking about what you guys, what you were talking about is, how do we serve others? How do we make other people successful? And when we have our own brands, when we are doing our own things, and we can show, oh, well, we've done this for ourselves, so obviously we can do this for you. And it's no much more of like, smoke and mirrors. It's like, wow, look at them. They're doing their own thing. So obviously they might be able to help me out, and I think that's the value of investing in yourself as well as trying to invest in your customers. Because I think a lot of times, and what I don't like in the real world is, and I'm not talking about any specific one person, but is when somebody says, I want to do this, but only if this were to happen, I'd be able to do this. And it's like, why would you wait for the perfect wave when you don't know if that's going to come? Your ability to just take out your phone and start creating content, or tell a story, or engage a viewer, all the power is right here. And we're going to placate on the fact that only if only if I had $1 million, I would be able to reach all the audience in the world. No.
It's more about targeting the right people.
Yes.
Some of the most efficient sort of platforms out there don't have the largest numbers. They have the best audience that's most engaged, or has the most sort of money, or has the most decision makers, depending on if it's like a B2B situation or something like that. In our case, we're blessed with both. The customers or fans that peruse our platforms, generally speaking, have a fair amount of disposable income, and then the businesses that peruse ours are real businesses that pay their bills and are growing and are real people in the space, from all walks of life and all sides of the aisle, as they say. We're fortunate that way. It's been cultivated over time, as I've mentioned, and we continue to take that very seriously. So the things that we do, say, and and put out there are sort of catering to that community. But fortunately, that community runs a really broad swath of people and allows us to be a really great source and a platform for a lot of different types of voices and perspectives. Because and it allows us sort of to treat, well, not sort of, it allows us to treat subjects really fairly, at least I think, in my mind. And then basically to your point about, working early, again, like what kind of history you have, I think that doesn't matter. And what you say you can do matters. And, and how you move correctly matters. And I don't care if that's from a corporate contract sense or just a, respect, kind of sense, they all go together. And there should be sort of respect shown, or at the very least, good communication that you can establish with somebody. We don't have to be best friends singing kumbaya all day long or anything. Yeah. But basically, if we can get our jobs done and provide equal, if not greater value for each other for a fair price, like let's rock and roll. If there can be more, great, let's explore that. Because obviously the optimal is to work in a situation where you're super passionate about what you're doing and you're working with people and partners and clients that you're equally as passionate about, if not more so, because you're so thrilled about everybody that's in the whole entire kind of universe that you're creating for yourself, right? Or with each other, right? That's one thing that we've done well. It's only because we all believe it, is that we want you to come in. We want to be a welcoming resource. We want you to grow, whether that's through knowledge or our services, or our products, right? But either way, we want to create a sort of a welcoming place. That's why you see us at events. That's why you see us with the Beard Bros Media Network. That's why you see us emphasizing things like travel. It's why you see us, working with retailers to make sure that they're utilizing programmatic and retail media networks and their screens to their full capacity in a way that's honest and transparent and that aligns with their goals and that is a lot more focused on ROI than maybe other resources that they might consider. So again, we're really trying to, provide a strong value. And if you see it that way, we can do a whole lot for you, or we can just help you with this one sort of lane if you like. And we have a way to basically accommodate everybody. Generally speaking, regardless of their price point, that's something we really tried to focus on, making sure we could do is, a wide range of opportunities, but you would get what you're looking for no matter what you're sort of plugged in, what your campaign is focused on.
Yeah, and it is true. Going back to a little bit what you were saying is, as much good as there is in the community, I've faced my share of backlash and attack and differences with people. And one of the biggest things that I've realized is not all the community is about growth. They may be in their garden, but as far as individuals, like what they want to do, how they want to handle this, that's why I said it's on a spectrum. And I think the biggest thing that really confuses me is it's like we're supposed to be a community of growers, right? And the idea is to get everybody on board, because if everybody says yes, we have no problem, right? If there's no naysayers. And, when I was in the Jeep community, I always kind of referred to the same thing because it's kind of funny. In the Jeep community, if you did not take your Jeep apart, use your wife's oven, and use her dining room table to put back the heads of the engine, you're not a real Jeeper. And if you like fucking rubber ducks, this is the gayest shit ever for Jeepers. And it's like, but when did we become such hard asses and had to be such a man's man to drive a Jeep? Most Jeeps are driven by women, by the way. And it's just one of those things within the cannabis community, as a new grower, I know enough to be deadly. I know enough to harvest really good bud, in my opinion. I don't sell my weed, so I don't really care what people think about it. But I will tell you, every time I go to a dispensary and every time I look at what I got in my grinder, it looks way better. And it's one of those things where, what I wish people would see is the more we're inviting, the more open we are, the more we can share information and exchange the positivity and the vibe that this is real, this exists, and this brings people together, the more we're going to get to where we want. But when you segment people, because like for instance, my plants right now don't look the best. They had a little bit of a magnesium deficiency. But what I was talking about in the beginning of my podcast is I've taken the jeweler's loop and I've gone down to 10 times and it looks perfect. The bud cola looks perfect. The leaves may look like shit, right? But the bud is fine. But you have all these people trying to discredit you, saying, "Oh, you don't know how to grow. You don't even know how to fix your own garden. How you doing all this other stuff and teaching people." And it's like, growing is about mistakes, education, and then going back to the drawing board. And my thing is, I like the idea of being vulnerable so we can put ourselves in a place where we don't understand. And then how do we create understanding? Because if we look at a problem like that and somebody that's not in this community says, wow, that's really hard, I probably never would do that. We've just now lost a grower to the community. Or if they say, you know, it looks like it's too much drama, I don't want to be a part of that, we just lost somebody to the community. And I think what I'm trying to say is, you know, we're creating an experience, just like the experience of being high. And my favorite person, Josh, who I speak to every MJ BizCon, and he did say he would do my 2-hour podcast. He just endorsed Wiz Khalifa. Wiz Khalifa just started his own rolling paper company, and he posted on his platform with millions and millions of followers, which is free advertisement for Wiz Khalifa, and said, I'm so excited about my friend, blah, 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 blah. I want him to be successful at the highest levels, quote unquote. You know what I mean? Why is it that we can't all be like that? Why can't we all put each other on? Why is it, you know, sometimes segmented where it's like, oh, you can't ride this bus. Like, you know, you may be in it, but not this, you know what I mean? And I feel like as we move forward and create information and create story, that's a way to combat that.
So there's two things that are sort of at play here. One, I think we all would understand is if there's a business conflict, or certainly, you know, if your platform's worth money and you monetize it, you've got to be very careful about how you're sort of giving it away, or, you know, doing that and what that looks like, right? So that's strategy, and that makes sense. It makes sense that, like, you might not, like, include these people because they're competitors to your product or your service or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. That's fair.
You hate them or you wish anything bad for them, but you're not exactly going to let them under the kimono because, you know, you're probably going after the same types of clients and things like that, right? So, you know, so there's being like, there's being basically professional and there's being stupid, right? So that's one lane, right? But then I think the other thing that you're talking about is something that we all can tap into, which is sort of maybe let's have a little bit of grace for one another, right? Unfortunately, now it's become lucrative to basically take shots from the cheap seats, right? Like doing that has become, you know, valuable to certain people with certain mindsets, with certain, you know, aspirations or lack thereof, if you want my honest opinion. But ultimately, you know, but ultimately you can make money, you know, being a troll or being somebody who just, you know, ruffles up people or insert themselves into conversations that bring attention to that maybe you know, either in some cases flat out lie about a situation, or at the very least just are contrary because it gets better engagement. Now, that is a commentary on humans, and specifically in our case, Americans, and you know why are we gravitating towards like they wouldn't do it if the clicks weren't and the engagement didn't reflect it. They wouldn't. So if all this stuff that we see, like in terms of the digital, right, like we're going up a tougher road by trying to be sort of more fair-minded and appeal to a broader audience. Like it's easier to make money if you take sides and poke at each other and throw bombs at each other and even lie and be deceitful to each other. It's now more sort of, it can be more advantageous to do that if you're only concerned about short-term money, right? Or because you're going to burn bridges, but you can make some good coin, right? But if you really give a shit about like long-term growth, the plant in any capacity whatsoever, what it represents, what the larger picture of all this could literally mean. Like by playing the long game, you actually could seek to make quite a lot more than you would with short-term thinking, to be honest with you. You know, people are willing to burn bridges. I don't think understand what they're doing ultimately. You know, you have
this industry, because this industry happens to be very, very small. And everybody knows everybody. So if you do fuck somebody over, especially maybe not in the cannabis smoking industry, but in like the knee cans, the MJ BizCons, all those people know each other.
Oh, yeah.
And the biggest thing is when Jeff Bezos met Warren Buffett for the first time, he said, Warren, your book is so easy. Why don't people read it and become millionaires? Warren Buffett responded, Most people don't want to become millionaires over time.
That's right.
And that's exactly what you're describing is get in, get out quick, when you could get in, get good, and get real good.
That's right. And that's basically, and that's what I think a lot of us see. Also, you can just be more transparent that way, be more honest as an organization. You can move, you can be a little bit more sort of transparent in your practices and stuff like that, which is always going to help you in our the more info, the more ways you can help somebody that you're trying to work with understand you and see, what you're actually doing and what you're actually worth is going to be the better for you. And I know we're not used to that. A big swath of us are not used to that sort of openness, especially when it comes to our own business practices and what we do. But I can tell you that in every other facet of business, everywhere else, they are. And that's how they're wired. And it's a big differentiator. The more that you can show and your effectiveness and, and data and case studies and things like that behind it, people to vouch for you, right? These are big things. And they last. It's important in every industry, right? Like, again, it does baffle me the amount of people who are willing to torch relationships for just a few $1,000s in the space. It's ludicrous. Like, here you work together for I tried to be friendly, and you worked, you had goals together that you're going to be able to earn, and one screws the other for like $5K, and you're like, really? Your organization, you're not thinking correctly. Like, you have a business, you have a brand, you have a reputation. You need to grow. You don't need to grow into a multi-cajillion billion dollars if you want to. You just have to grow in an organization that's stable. I don't know any business owner that doesn't want to continue to grow at a certain clip. Sometimes they're fine with this much versus this much, but it's always in the green. And I don't know anybody who's not trying to do that and to try to make a little bit more money at least every year.
And that's one thing that I will say that brings up a topic where I have because I run a business like you, and because Madman Plant is a company, you get people who are like, it's wrong of you to try to make money off of cannabis. And my response is, tell that to your fucking drug dealer. All right. Or tell that to your dispensary. All right. At the end of the day, this is a business. You know what I mean?
Right. So.
And they're like, and people kind of get weird that are not in the business mindset of how you could possibly be making money off of this. And that's not, you shouldn't be doing this. And my thing is with this is, when you're in a business, your money is your ability to move forward, is your cash flow and what you can do right now. It's your investments of how you can scale, develop, and grow and expand your company. It's where you can go and travel. So whether you like it or not, that's the reward of providing value to the world. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. When Ikigai, which is what we both represent, which is finding something you're passionate about and finding something that the world needs, and somehow bringing them both together and being rewarded for that.
That's right. And I think having that mindset is smart. Like I said, it doesn't have to be predatory. It doesn't have to be all focused on like the money aspect of growth, but you should be growing your organization, just at a bare minimum, with things like inflation or the fact that we're taxed in certain ways that you shouldn't be, and that you end up having to pay out. You can't recoup expenses in the way that other people can. So that alone should incentivize you to try to figure out ways to make more money, to save yourself and to give yourself more value, to grow with. So alone on its face, you should want to do that, especially if you're in our space. Especially, but even on top of that, you don't want to make it just a little easier on the family every year. Like, that's not a goal for you. I don't get that. I don't. Like, even if you're like, oh well, we want to be fair-minded, cool. You don't have to be $1 billion company, but you're gonna need to grow. You're gonna want to keep up pace with just inflation in general because of your products, services, cost things, freaking real estate, whatever it might be. Your fixed costs are gonna grow. So you're going to have to keep up with that too. There's taxes to consider, all sorts of stuff that's going to go ebb and flow. You're going to need to create stable recurring revenue so that you can be predictably prepared for those and grow. And don't you want that growth to kind of continue to grow, right? Again, I think people
like our plants.
don't you want your plants to grow effectively? Exactly right, right? And so I don't get why people are so weird about this. You're right, though. Like, again, no one's saying, like, I'm for home grow. I wish as many people could home grow as people want to grow. And I wish there was zero restrictions on it for anybody, to be honest. I don't see how it would harm business at all. In fact, my theory is it would help it. If more people are home growing, then you actually have different aspects of the business can grow. And I don't think that's going to stop a big swath of people who just don't have the time or space to do it. So you're always going to have a lot of consumers buying products. Like, that's not going to change, no matter how many people.
Also, growing is not one of these set and forget it's. Although we have things like the autopots, there is still maintenance, there's training, there's a lot of things that go into the garden. And I will put money up that majority of people probably are too lazy or just don't want to do that. Would much rather just go buy it. Like, for instance, I don't want to go kill a chicken. That would be very, very violent towards me, because I was like, I have no problem with defending myself, or if things go south, things go south.
Sure.
But for innocent animals, I wouldn't want to have to run outside, grab a chicken by the neck, cut it off, take all the feathers just to have a chicken sandwich. I'd rather just drive to Chick-fil-A
and get the chicken sandwich. Exactly.
So I do feel like, and that's why, whether you're a home grower, whether you're a dispensary, whatever, there's a place for everyone in cannabis.
Agreed.
And I love that aspect, because whether you want somewhere safe and well lit that looks like a fucking jewelry store to buy your weed from, or you want to hit some hole in the wall shop off the street of LA where they say, come to this back room and then it looks all weird and shit, that's your preference. And I think, in a way, the dispensaries are a way to break the stigma of buying weed and to help normalize that and look at it like as a professional objective, something that you do just naturally, and some of these beautiful, like when you flew into Boston, I don't know if you've been to what's the dispensary? It's right off the airport. I go there every time I land in Logan Airport.
Is that Firebrand Cannabis?
I like that.
Lost the Roots is a great one. They're not quite Logan, but they're a great one. Lost the Roots. There's a lot of great dispensaries.
Happy Valley.
Oh, sure. Yep.
If you go into Happy Valley, it looks like a fucking jewelry store. The first time I went in there, I was actually, Logan, you can play your game. I'm just talking. That's my son.
Sure.
I actually thought I was in the jewelry store. I was like, what is all these glass cases and everything's up prop nice, big beautiful lights and everything.
Right.
And that's what I love about this. And that's why, whether you're a home grower or whatever, we should support each other, because you are right. I've always thought, what if there was a bill or like a tax, right? And this is one thing that I'm trying to do as I get into more lobbying and more to like the actual like professional side of cannabis, as far as media media journalism. That's what I'm trying to do. Mm-hmm. And one of the things, like, I was like, well, what if there was a tax where the government would pay you, like, on the cans, like, I don't have a set of cans, but it's like, if you take this somewhere, they'll give you like 5 cents if it was a can or whatever. Right? Well, find out a dollar amount, and you collect the home grower stocks, all the leftover material. You process all the materials that us home growers would discard, which could be leaf material, could be leftover buds, could be stalks. Some of the stalks are big. You're talking about being able to process that and making paper, textiles, almost 5,000 pieces of items. And then, just like in World War II with Hemp for Victory, you now have Hemp for Victory, the home grower edition, where, hey, we're using all these valuable resources like oils and plastics and rubbers. Well, guess what? We can make toothbrushes out of cannabis. That saves that. And it doesn't take that much either. And with all the materials that we're collecting, we can incentivize people to grow, which helps the economy. So maybe Beard Bros and Madman Plant can go to Congress and be like, hey, this is our idea. But it's just a way to incentivize the ability that it is good for the planet. And when we talk about natural resources, global warming, you can build buildings out of cannabis that are fire resistant. You know what I mean? There are just so many things, and it has nothing to do with the black or gray or illicit market. It has to do with all things that a deck company could use, building construction company can utilize.
I know.
Doctors, dentists.
I think you've got a lot of, like, honestly, there's people that sort of do this already in a way, right? On a bigger level, right?
Great. Tell me about it.
Tapping into the home grow could be really interesting from a couple of different perspectives. So, you could pitch the government to try to, basically make a regulation or something like that to enforce it or make it invaluable for the people involved. Or if you were a private operator, right, you could basically work with home grow, right? And you could basically say, hey, home growers, you can donate to us. We will basically help you repurpose this into XYZ. And, maybe we'll work together to sell it, or we'll, have it, because we'll use it for whatever. But you'd have to iron out the kinks there. But I do think that could be a way for larger businesses to effectively liaise with smaller businesses and or just home growers in general, so that they could show that they're sort of understanding, that like this, like, I don't know, like, if you take the largest flower companies in the country or even in your state, I don't see how you could be threatened at all by somebody growing an ounce every fucking 3 months or whatever.
But you can grow way more than that.
I know you can grow way more than that. Okay, so if you can grow 100, right? If you can grow 1,000,
okay,
right?
well,
you still should be affected by like a home grow, because if you're doing that home grow wise that volume, well then, you're somewhere in the middle of a home grow between that and a small business, right? So.
Well, let's say like on my 4x8 grow tent, I average about 3 to 5 pounds per grow, right?
Okay.
So if we took 3 to 5 pounds per grow off of only 8 plants, right?
Yep.
Like, how much money would that be to a dispensary if I had to go buy that much material?
Oh, dude.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's the value is, hey, well, maybe we don't have a customer, but that material, we had a legal law, like when I did Canatrol's website video, we did all their marketing, all their testimonials, their website video, everything for them.
Sure.
Right. When we were in Boston, we traveled to 3 different states, New Hampshire, Boston, and Vermont. And we were with retailers, distributors, home growers, and facility growers. And when we were talking to what is the place? Can't remember the dispensary name. We talked to Eric, which was a home grower. He sells his cannabis as a home grower to the dispensary.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So you get the home growers to sell the bud to the dispensaries. You get the processing company to take their stocks. Now the grower doesn't have to worry about throwing anything away because they just take it all. And he doesn't even have to throw the material out. So if he wanted to be a little bit more incognito, he doesn't have to put it all in a trash bin right outside his house where it stinks to high hell.
Correct.
See what I'm saying?
You have a place to process it. No, that's exactly right. That's how I think it would be more realistic to your point. Like what we're talking about is the larger organizations in the space would somehow, partner or work with, develop a process with the home growers in the same, market essentially, or region, once boundaries open up, once you could sell across state lines or work easily that way. Point is, yes, I just think more of the things that, again, I don't. It goes back to like long-term thinking versus short-term thinking, and I don't even mean it even in our world. I mean, in the world, right? Like the lack of information and the people in power that have not as much information as they should, or aren't equipped, quite literally, to make the decisions they're put in charge to make. How do we, affect them? Because that's who moves the needle to get us all what we want. And those are very difficult conversations. I'm not suggesting I have or we have the full answers to that. So, but
tune in next time when we do have the answers. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, but I do suspect it has something to do with building relationships and setting boundaries, and educating. And so that's what we like to do, not just with ourselves and our friends and families, but with our clients and with the people that we partner with. I think that's to bring it back to sort of the whole theme of this overall conversation, which of course is like collaboration versus like don't be stupid, right? And ultimately, that's what I would suggest is go with, like you were saying, go with the people who have that energy, that shared sort of where it's easy, right? Where you can feel the flow, that this is, and as you have your own boundaries set, i.e., as you grow, there is going to be less aptitude to do things that build and more aptitude to get paid for things, right? But you're also able to add more value, so the money continues to come if you're playing your cards correctly and doing as best as you can, right? So that's part of growth too, is my point. And that's also part of being a good, honest, setting boundaries effectively, right? People have a very hard time doing that because of the nature of how we all came up. And I get that. I do. You have people who you used to be able to do stuff with easy, and it was maybe free or it was very little, but now things are different because they have businesses that have grown, or they don't have much margin to play with. There's more competition. All those things that I think people weren't ready for. All the soft skills parts of basically making this big transition that we're all been part of for all this time. Is like all of a sudden, no, what used to work sort of on the friend tip doesn't fly anymore. And that's a tough realization for a lot of folks, self-included, especially with certain people, right? It's easy when you're building and you're meeting new prospects, or you're meeting at that time, and then you go from there because you're able to be like, hey, here's us now, and here's what we're doing. It's a lot harder with the people who've known you since you were grown. This is why when I'm talking to people, often make the mistake of saying, oh, my family and the people that are closest to me will basically get me off the ground. No, they won't. No, they won't. No. They'll give you maybe moral support if you're lucky, or if you have some sort of skin in the game with them, or there's a fund for you or something. But other than that, no, it's going to be their audience's audience that actually does that for you. They're your effective word of mouth. They're not your effective buyers. They're not. They're your mavens that want to get the free shit. They're the people you hook up that bark your name because they're excited that they know you and that you're part of their life, but they're never going to pay for things, and they're never going to help you grow that way. Not that they don't want to, they don't love you. It's just they've known you since you were, doing all sorts of things. If they've known you since you were a kid or whatever, right? So,
and that's that's a great point. And I'll wrap this up before we take our 10-minute break here. But 100%. And when I was in Vegas, I spent a lot of times in the forums, and I actually, I think I went to like 7 different forums, all about marketing, ROI, engagement. And what's funny is all the big time influencers, I didn't see anybody there that I actually knew from social media. And it's one of those things where we're all trying to be professionals, but who's listening to the writing that's on the wall and who's just creating? And just kind of like what you're saying is you have the hype people who they bring hype, they bring the audience, but those audiences aren't actually going to convert. Those audiences don't actually give a shit. They're just there because the party's there.
You want a volume play, and you just want a lot of good, like a big swath.
A big boom. Yeah, exactly.
Where they come from. Those are awesome options for you. They really are, truly. I'm not even blowing smoke.
No, 100%. There's nothing more than
targeted leads or a audience that's really been cultivated full of people that you want to target because of your business, service, needs, whatever, I would really consider people who have done things like nurture a really strong network that's like sort of impressive compared to yours, right?
Well, yeah,
So,
and what I was saying with the forums was one of the things was the influencers that were speaking were talking about the ability and how to be taken seriously in this industry. And kind of what I touched on a little bit earlier is the fact that because we're already stoners, the fact that when people know you, it's like most people stay the same. So when you're somebody that's constantly changing and evolving, even with my dad, I'm an entrepreneur. My dad was never an entrepreneur. And to him, I live a very risky and taboo life. And I got pink hair and I got holes in my ears and I got tattoos and all this crazy stuff. And to him, he doesn't recognize that and he doesn't appreciate the person that what this all represents. And like you were saying, those people that are closest to you that seen you grow up, they have an internalization of who you really are. But as you evolve, as you change, that's why I hate to say it, but I get more love on the road, meeting more complete strangers than I do have people in my own state who despise me. So it's one of those things where it's a real thing. And I guess what it ties back down to and what I've truly committed myself to is this is for me. One thing about being a Freemason is, are you a Mason?
no.
Okay. So if you ever do become a Mason, Masonry is a theater, is what they will say. And you are the main character. And just like in life, it's the very same thing. Whether it's Beard Bros, whether it's Raw, whether it's Madman Plant, whether it's King Palm, what's happening is you're seeing 100% devoted individuals to a brand, a service, a product, a realm, an industry, a community, and their drive to add and change the experience and business in the way people interact with the planting, the gardening, the smoking, the lifestyle of marijuana is actually played. And when you can start to manipulate in good faith the way people experience your product or your service and really drive them on board, that, in my opinion, is how we do professionalize ourselves. It is in the small moments where nobody knows. Like I made a video the other day when I was talking in front of the college because they bring me in as a local expert because a lot of the kids in the video production program are afraid that they won't be able to get a real job after they leave there. And they bring me in as a local expert to teach them and talk to them about the real world and more about business than filming. And one thing I talk about is nobody knows. At the end of the day, whatever you do for somebody and they're paying you or you're doing it on an agreement or whatever, nobody knows if you gave your best effort. Nobody knows if that's the best you could do. Nobody knows if you showed up for you yourself that day. Nobody knows. The integrity and moral application of the business realm is so important because it goes back to your statement about burning bridges. This is what people will remember. The people that don't know you are going to remember the things that you do. So they don't have to know the old you to have the same old feelings that those old people do about you in the sense that you're worthless or you have no value or you're just an idiot and don't know what you're talking about.
Sure.
So I do agree with that 100%.
Yeah. And I love that point about basically, understanding that your sort of brand and the sort of gray areas, the soft skills and things that go along with it, that added value, that's just the extras are really what people sort of key in on. And as long as you know that, like, I don't really worry about our pricing because I know that you're getting what you're supposed to get from it. So I know at a very bones minimum, you work with us 3-6 months a year, you're going to at least get what you paid for. But we know that what increases that relationship and increases the bottom line that you're sort of working with us with is if we overextend, if we get even better results, or if we get direct results that result in, even larger amount of sales than was predicted, or a larger amount of leads that were predicted, right? And we're also working with you in different ways to help encourage your people to convert those things and bring them into your realm a little bit more effectively. All those little ads and that basically are the things that make the difference. That, to your point, is what people remember. It is. It's what people remember. They're aiming for the results in the contract that you're agreeing to try to achieve. So at a very least, you know your pricing. You got to be comfortable with what you're offering, and that you know at a bare bones minimum you can fulfill that, right? But it's on top of that, or as those things are happening, the little extras that can take place. That's really what people remember in terms of like sort of, you know, what that feel is like to work with you. So.
Oh, 100%. All right, so we're going to take a quick 10-minute break. We will be back, guys. Stay tuned.
All right.
All right, we are back. First of all, I want to shout out our sponsors for our gold sponsor dry flower, the original hang dry harvesting system. If you ever ruined your flower post chop or lost chirps to bad dry, it's time to upgrade. Dry flower makes full plant hang drying effortlessly with tools like their drying arm, rack system, and cannabis guardian nets, giving you consistent airflow, zero flat spots, and maximum preservation. Your strains full aroma, structure, built by growers for growers. Dry flower helps you cure like a king. And our next sponsor, which is our silver sponsor, Current Culture, which I will have videos for all this soon. I just want to do it in my new studio, so I'm waiting for all the painting to be done. But Current Culture, our silver sponsor in deep water culture hydroponics. These systems are designed to deliver explosive root growth, nutrient uptake through consistent water circulation and oxygenation. Whether you're a four-site home grower setup or a 100-light commercial facility, their undercurrent system and plug-and-play design make your grow cleaner, faster, and more productive. Precision growing starts at its roots, and that's where Current Culture shines. And our last sponsor, which is our smoke sponsor, Can Scoops, the simple but genius tool that growers need on their tray. No more sticky finger, smash nugs, or cross contamination. Just scoop your weight, pack it like a pro, and it's one of those tools you don't even realize you need until you're using it. And then you never go back. Thank you guys for being sponsors of our show. And now back to the episode. Hello, how are you? You're muted. Hold on. You gotta unmute yourself.
Well done. Nice on-air reads. Those are very well done, sir. Good job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have a professional video that will play. So in that 10 minutes, it's a 10-minute video that will play. So it'll count down. It'll do the sponsor ads. It'll also show in different things. So I'm building up a whole little sizzle reel. Nice. So it's 10 minutes interactive, and then you can change it out as the sponsors change out or ad or whatever.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. I love it. Good. See, again, value add.
Well, that's what, and we were talking about before the episode is the difference. Do you know who Jim Rohn is? Jim Rohn is who I idolize to be one day. That is like when I become a silver hair guy, that's who I want to talk and be like. Sure. And I listen to him all the time. And he talks about why would somebody want to become an attractive person in the workplace? And it's because attractive people, which are not like by looks, but by skills and experiences and talents and abilities, those are the attractive that we're talking about. And the value of being able to provide more value in the workplace, paying you more value for that. You know what I mean? And the value that it's time and space. And when we talk about a lot about my mental health and the podcast, a lot of it revolves around how I see and live life. And one of the biggest things is how I think about like when I die. And as a person that's almost committed suicide, and as a person who's almost died in a very horrific car accident with my son Logan, my wife, and my wife's mom, and all of us survived with no injuries. My goal is to really kind of leave no stone unturned. And when talking to my grandmother before she died of cancer, we had a long talk about her life. And one of the things that she told me was that she was at total peace. And yes, I'm reusing a tip because I keep running out of them. And they're still good. You just got to wipe it off. Right. And the ability to be satisfied, like truly satisfied. And as an entrepreneur and business owner and brand builder, and much like you with Beard Bros and the team and everything, we have all these ideas and admirations. But other than the dollars, other than the notoriety, what are we actually doing here on Earth, and who are we serving, and what are we serving? Because when you die, and I don't know if you've ever had a chance to almost die, have you?
I have.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Well, maybe you can share the same feeling when I thought I was going to die. There was a very cool, calm feeling, and my emotion tied to it was a lot of anger because I, in my mind, feel like I still haven't done anything great. Like I've always been the kind of guy that wants to do something bigger than me. You know what I mean? That involves a lot of people, does a lot of great things in the world. And I felt like, wow, I would have been cut short in that accident. So now everything that I do is like no stone left unturned. If it all went and happened again tomorrow, I would feel, I hope I would feel like my time was well spent here.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the serving power. How did you almost die? I would love to know.
Well, it's basically like when I was younger, I was like just about 16. I basically took too much, well, it was like cocaine, basically too much mixed stuff with a bunch of, what do you call it, that was sprinkled on weed, essentially, and I didn't know. And so I basically was smoking, cocaine, and a whole lot of it, and I was a rookie, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And basically smoked enough to basically be taken to the emergency room and have your stomach pumped, and got very, very close to some very, very bad stuff. But fortunately, the bad stuff that happened from that was basically didn't have to do with my body. Thankfully, I was, basically taken there in time to basically be okay. But I would explain, I would describe the feeling that I had because there was a few moments where I didn't know that like that was going to happen. And I had enough in my system to know that it wasn't the weed; it was something else because I felt different. It was different, so I was like, "Oh shit," And then I would say that calm happens, but then I was, young. I was 15, so I was like, "Well, that seems like I felt that anger too, sort of that like, it was like this calmness in terms of like, oh, I thought it'd be more painful physically, right?" But but then when I thought about, when I could think about it, this is all like, it sounds like it happened over the course of a long ass time. It was very quick that all this happened, I think. But ultimately I just was like you, got more to do. Gotta do some stuff. Not time for this. Nope. Don't want to, even though I like felt okay, I was like, no. Fortunately it was like pretty close, but not that close. Another time it's actually closer that I don't think about really as much, just because it was stupid. It's just a simple accident, but was like I was walking on a log with my buddy, and we were basically hiking, and we decided to take sort of a more difficult path, as you do, you're screwing around sometimes. I didn't really realize how much of the sort of sticks and bushes below us were pointed, right? And had like basically, and they were like bamboo and like other sort of regular sort of stuff. And it wasn't like trimmed to be a trap or anything. It was just a lot of like brush that had points. And so anyhow, we fell back on it because we slipped. It was wet. And like we actually fell together, and we just felt just right. Like, so that, no, but like we fell, and there's like, here's the thing that could have killed me. Here's the thing that could have killed me. Here's the thing that could have killed me. Right. Here, through between my legs, here's a thing that could have killed me. It just landed
or
just
in your manhood.
Well, yes, or worse. Yes, exactly right.
At that point, maybe you should just kill me.
That's right. So things like that, like, of course, I think, kind of go along with the territory as a kid, just, sort of exploring things. And, ultimately you run the risk of that, happening. So, and then the third time, I didn't get close. I wouldn't consider this close to death, but it felt like you're trapped in a large amount of time in a basically old building in Philadelphia, where a wedding was at the top floor of it, and the thing broke down the elevator with a bunch of us stuffed in it for like, God, I don't know, it's like 5 hours or something. It was a long time. Very uncomfortable, scary, but was not really close to death. Not really. So.
Well, I'm glad that you're here.
Those are the first ones that come to mind. I've been in some situations that could have been that way, but I just was more, I don't know, like, there's other things that happen that I think are close, but the closest for sure is that, near sort of, I wouldn't call it OD. I mean, I guess that was sort of what it would have been had I like gone down there and been like, oh, he, ingested cocaine, right? But I didn't know that it was sprinkled all over the flipping weed.
Well, and tying this back to our current conversation is the fact that that's why dispensaries should exist, and there should be regulations. And also, that's why home growing is so important because, at the end of the day, I know what's in this. It's Athena nutrients. That's what I use,
Right.
Now I'm actually going to use the clear line, which is
there you go.
Culture.
No, so true though. Like ultimately that kind of thing doesn't happen as much anymore, thankfully. I don't think.
Well, actually, I was actually talking today, and somebody's friend who I was talking to, they had fentanyl
in their weed.
Now I don't know if this is true. I've not confirmed this, but we're talking about it. But it's Discord, so you don't know what's true.
I would understand that. That's generally speaking how it gets basically permeated through everybody. But you hear these rumors about it being in weed, which I think are really just people who want to use the scary word and attach it to the thing that they don't understand and want to and they want to continue to stigmatize. So I don't know how much truth there is to the whole weed fentanyl stuff because most of the people I know that are pushing fentanyl into the market are doing so through cocaine, essentially.
Well, yeah, and that too. But what I have heard is when I was at National Cannabis Festival here in Washington, D.C., because I live on the East Coast in Virginia, I was letting people smell my bud, and they were like, wow, this smells amazing. What terp spray is it sprayed with? And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like what is it sprayed with? And I'm like, it's not sprayed with anything. They're like, there's no way that's not sprayed. And I'm like, what are you talking about spray? Like, why would you want to smoke something that has been sprayed?
I know, I love these cats to talk about it like it's just totally like, yeah, of course you're spraying it and stuff.
Like what? You wouldn't get your spray?
Because I'm not sure if you're doing that, that's the correct way to sort of grow a plant, if you will, or to process it, I guess, at that point is what you're considering.
Well, one thing about National Cannabis Festival, it shows you the ignorance that there is with cannabis. And I'm not saying that people are stupid, but what I am saying is we are putting this into our body. This is going into our respiratory system, bypassing the silica hairs on our lungs and going directly into our bloodstream.
Yes,
so you should definitely metals, if there's chemicals, if there's any residue from anything that's non-healthy, you are smoking that. And when I was at National Cannabis Festival, I would go up and be like, hey, listen, I was talking to some people and I'm doing some interviews. They said your weed is really good. Can you tell us where it's from? Oh, it's from Cali. Okay, great. What about the breeder? Like, who's the breeder? Oh, I'm not sure about that. You have to talk to my dude. And then I talk to the dude. Oh, it's my boy. He's out in Cali. And I'm like, okay, so none of you guys know any of the genetics except for the name. Like, you love cannabis so much that you know nothing about what the fuck you're smoking on. And you're cool with that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, for me, and I'm not even a fucking health nut, I want to know where that shit came from before I put it into my body. You know what I mean? Because like you, I'm not trying to get my stomach pumped,
Right.
Like,
yeah, I'm not trying to, do dumb shit like I did when I was 15. Yeah.
Oh, and I did some dumb shit, smoking some spice back during the day, 2CE, 2CI, research chemicals.
Planning stupid maneuvers by your boy as he was a kid into his 20s, yes. And even still today, we sometimes occasionally make a dumb move. However, I'm much better at it at my late 40s than I was in my late teens. So, and ultimately, I don't care about the same things I did then. And it's a very different world that we live in as well. So, you got to adapt to times, you got to learn, mature, yada, yada, yada stuff. But if you're doing it right, that's what happens. Again, grow. It's really about, trying to do that your best way, that is for you. I think that's where we get crossed up to your points. Like, you should just support each other's growth in the best way you can. If you're direct competition to it, then no, you're not like giving each other trade secrets or giving them a leg up, but you can support from afar, right? For instance, yes, I get that brands have to compete with each other, or manufacturers do, or growers do to an extent, right? You're in the market. There's only so much money to go around. So much people, investing, et cetera, building. I get it, right? So, so it can be tough. The competition can be, brutal, right? But then again, don't we all have a common sort of thing that we can point our attention to? Like, for instance, there's people that don't even want you to be able to do business.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be a bigger concern too, right? That there's misinformation out there, that there's people that are really actively trying to push messaging that is contrary to your bottom line, right? I don't think I know anybody who'd rather have to look behind their back to put money in the bank. Right? I think people would like it to be easier and not have to worry about that kind of thing. And I think that there's, as we grow towards that, we've got to keep a lot of that stuff in mind. While a lot of this is done to all of this is done to us purposefully, it's also designed to have us fight with each other and to basically destroy each other so that larger places can pick up the ashes at a very discounted rate.
Yeah, but I also, well, I think business is an emotional experience, especially when it comes to livelihoods, ideas, scalability, moves, mindsets. And one thing too, kind of to this market is this idea that it's fucked up that you would do the same thing that somebody else is already doing. And it's not fucked up. You know how many people make a grinder? You know how many people make
there's also room for everybody, I think, right?
Yeah, 100%. It creates diversity.
Great grinders. You know what I mean?
It creates diversity. It creates options. It helps balance out the economy. It prevents capitalism. You know what I mean? There's a lot of great things to diversify markets. And when people see this as personal, one thing that I'm even guilty is you in the business sense is you truly have to remove the emotion from it and just realize it is business. That's why in my arm I have all is fair in love and war tattooed here. And in business, that is 100% true. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, this is not about yes, we want to be friendly. Yes, we want to have good relationships with people. But at the end of the day, we're all here trying to serve a purpose or somebody or a product or a market. And we have a job to do. You know what I mean? And we are, you can be friendly in competition. And you saw that as a prime example when Raw announced Wiz Khalifa's rolling papers and said that, hey, I want you to be successful at the highest level. Raw is not going to be giving him his secrets, like you said, but they are on friendly terms. They can diversify, they can collaborate. And when you think about
there's benefit to them being seen together, etc. So
yeah, and it comes down to that guy that steals that $5,000. That guy that stole that $5,000 didn't see the value of, well, maybe we're competitors, but maybe together we can make more money by XYZ or doing this or collaborating for a period of time. And that's what I think the biggest thing about businesses is being creative is also on how you strategize and use relationships and how you're able to leverage things. You see so many mergers where companies are coming together to solve a certain problem or create a certain product. And the value of recognizing, Quentin Tarantino has a quote that I've kind of developed my life to live around and to philosophize with. And I've been doing so good so far. He said, as a creator, it is not your job to come up with this elaborate plan, set out and do it all by yourself. Your job as a creator is to come up with this elaborate plan, find extremely talented people in the world, have them see your vision and have them help you carry it out. It takes a team. It takes a village. The whole mindset too, though, in the background where I believe the real power is, it's the build it and they will come mentality. And the thought that I'm not doing it for them. I'm not even doing it for a certain type of result. I'm doing it because I know that by creating this, serving this, or providing this, or whatever, I'm going to change the world, or at least the person I'm doing business with, to the extent that they're going to grow and develop, and then I will too. And then everything else sleds behind that. But when you try to look at it as a metric, it can be very turmoil versus looking at it in the purest sense that I'm doing this because I want to do this. It's not because X amount of people showed up. It's not even because of X amount of people validate what I'm doing. It's because I believe in it. And I think that also carries a lot of weight, and that separates the $5,000 scammer to the person who's like, wait a minute, there's more opportunity. I'm not going to take you for 5. I'm going to take you for 5 million, and I'm going to make you a partner. And we're going to change the world.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think that again, I come approach everybody with that sort of a mindset. Is there a way we can collab? Do I actively go pursue direct competitors for that? No. But that doesn't mean we can't be friendly, to your point. That said, with most everybody else, and we're fortunate to be able to work with a large swath of different types of businesses and brands, so that's great for us. So ultimately, everyone we approach, we're trying to figure out a way to work together to our maximum benefit, right? That's really what, if you see that vision and you want to grow and you see us as a vehicle to help you do so, that's what we're talking about. That's what we would like to do, right? How we get there, that's up to a discussion. That's up to budget. That's up to decision makers, and perhaps that's how maybe we get there quickly. Maybe it takes us a minute. If they want to, we still pursue. If there's not, or we can't find a way, we shake hands, we say, bless you, and we'll come back around, and we'll talk to each other later when things line up maybe a little bit better. Keep us in mind when we're out there, support you. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. We know people are going to spread their money around to different media sources, and they're going to try different things. So I'm under no illusion that every business is going to only use Beard Bros Farms.
Oh yeah, you'd be naive to think that. It's
so there's room for everybody, I think, and ultimately, yes, there's also, to the larger, more effective organization goes the majority of the coin. So that's real too, and so you have to just be, if everybody's aware of those things, I think you can set expectations and, communicate effectively, which also means sometimes not communicating, I think that, there's room for everybody, and everybody can compete, and you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, and you're going to have to basically get with that. Ultimately, successful, I'm a sports guy, so that's what metaphors come to mind. So I'm always like, well, I mean, batting 300 in baseball is dope, and that's basically just 30%, right? Shot percentage in the NBA, 40, 50% for 3 would be stupid, insane, is awesome, right? So again, you know what I mean? Think about things like that. A great team that can win the championship might lose 20 games out of the 80 that they play, right? Yep. So every year they're losing at least 20 games, and being 62-8 or 62-20 is a damn good record in the NBA. That's very strong. You're probably one of the best teams that year, right? So my point is failing and losing, these words people don't understand, and all this sort of that shit. Fine, don't call it failing, call it learning, right? Fine, don't call it losing, call it learning, right? Okay. The point is it's all a process, and you're gonna fail. You're gonna not do the thing right more than you're gonna do the thing right. But then when you do the thing right, and all of a sudden you do it really right, and it's replicatable, then you want to try to figure out a way to not have to work so hard for it to work that effectively, if not more, right? To your point, it takes other people. You want to delegate. You want to build processes, right? So when you succeed, right? I did it right? You're also easing up on how much effort you should have to put towards it if you're doing it correctly. It's either easier for you to do, right? So you do it more effectively and you do it more frequently, or you do it so effectively that you can say, here's someone, bing, or here team, or here business, you do it now. Great. I'm going to do this that either adds to this or is separate from this, but I'm doing another process, right? And, that's how you have to sort of run your organization. Any business is run this way. You have to basically have all your different buckets, so to speak, of what makes you grow. and you nurture them and you make them grow, right? Because that's how you grow as a whole.
Yeah.
So that's also true, I think, for you, human being wise, mental health wise, physical health wise, right? Basically, the things become easier because you either can do them more effectively and or you like them, right? So it doesn't feel like work, and it doesn't feel like work because you're doing better, right? Because you like it and you're compelled to do it because you like the results or the feeling or both usually.
Yeah, it's an endorphin release at the end of the day, and that's what we're chasing. Is that high, and that's why that's businesses can have their lows, but they can also be high. The highs, and I equivalent smoking in business and succeeding. Very the same, very like adrenaline and dopamine release.
Well, we're super fortunate because when we succeed, we get to do what? Spark a joint with everybody that we're excited to do the thing with, right? So winner for us. We're very fortunate. Endorphin and spike it again. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's really awesome. So we got about 15 minutes left on the podcast. This is where I kind of open it up to my guest, and if there's anything in particular that you want to talk about, or anything that you want to bring to the table, now's your time.
Sure, no problem. It's been nice talking to you, man. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Ultimately, I did want to get back, or at least give a platform to talk about Freedom Grow for a second.
Oh, let's go. Let's use that time. It doesn't have to be exactly 15 minutes, but
sure, I got you.
No, let's talk about Freedom Grow. Let's go.
Yeah, Freedom Grow is a nonprofit that makes sure that funds and support go to nonviolent cannabis offenders who are still in jail, and help them hopefully get released. Right, support on all levels. Right, from everything from programs like Roundup, which helps give money directly to prisoners to buy basic needs, from commissary, etc. When they're there, and also there's also money that can sometimes go to their families if they need support in that manner. And then on top of that, ultimately to their maybe legal fees or fees that are needed to, make sure that they can try to get them out, and the record expunged as well, which has been able to happen. So the Beard Bros themselves, Bill and Jeff, are the CEO and COO respectively of Freedom Grow. They are among a lot of other nonprofits that we support, one that is very close to us and that we carry along with us for a lot of things that we do. And if you want to learn more about them, please check out Freedom Grow on all platforms. And if you're a decision maker out there, maybe consider using their Roundup or Commissary Connects programs. They're very easy to intertwine into your businesses and don't really cost you too much or anything at all. So I would highly recommend checking them out. So I wanted to give an opportunity to talk about that and the fact that people like Edwin Rubies are still sitting in jail. They shouldn't be. So make sure we're all talking about great stuff and home grow and profiting and business and stuff. Just remember, there's people still sitting under behind bars for stuff we're all profiting off of. So, I think all of us combined can try to do something about that. And this is one of the ways that we, as an organization, have decided to try to do that. We also do a lot of work with veterans and other groups that are that we can help our platform give away to on our platform. So we make sure to do that. Another thing is, I guess Beard Bros is a very, really comes down to it, two organizations under one umbrella. One is a product line. As I mentioned, we got RSO products in Daplicator and Tincture in a few markets in the States. We're in currently California, Massachusetts, and Missouri. You'll be able to catch us hopefully in a couple other markets before the end of the year. So stay tuned for that kind of information. And honestly, just really pushing the fact that, we're this big, we have a lot of different channels that you can tap into. We have a YouTube channel that continues to grow very successfully. We have a suite of shows, about 7, 8 of them, with really high profile kind of thought leaders in the space. So check that out. We're a part of events. We do an event tour. We can work with you to help basically generate leads and exposure for yourself on all fronts, including our events that we're going to be at. So, really dig into the Beard Bros universe, because you're going to be hearing a lot more about this. And as you've seen over the last certainly year and a half, as we've continued to kind of grow really, really fast, we are able to do what we say we do, and we just continue to provide and try to perfect our processes and our channels, just through basically growing together essentially, but we already have enough to help you grow for sure. And so, through collaborations and our own resources together, we, especially with joint commerce and highly buzz, can very much help, you tap into direct sort of sales if you can sell something online, or certainly direct exposure to your brand on really high profile platforms using digital and other cool avenues like screens and other things to really put forth a lot of cool ways to show content, to promote, and to educate, quite frankly. So, yeah, that's what we're doing. A lot of that stuff. So that's what I want to talk about is how the universe works for us. It's really those things and Freedom Grow essentially that form the Beard Grows universe, right? It's like a few different, all social media platforms, a quote unquote network, a full stack team that can do everything from creative services to programmatic ads, retail networks, and long form content in video or written form and or both, email, all that stuff, and help you understand how to do that effectively and to basically work with your team to really provide a really comprehensive campaign and ability to sort of grow. So that's what we've thankfully grown into, which also allows us to be a lot really effective at selling our product and growing the product because the brand has a lot of value. And so people see that in the services we provide, not only for ourselves, but for our current clients and others, as a really strong and get. We also, don't necessarily compete with your big, flower brands or anything. We're not really stepping on anybody's toes. We just can really be a strong value to your product you carry to get you what you need, sales, exposure, thing. And you must be smoking some good shit, my friend. So good.
Oh, dude, yeah, I'm always coughing. Lately, I guess my coughs sound like sneezes because everyone's like, "God bless you," and I'm like, "No, I'm coughing."
You're gonna
now I'm running incognito, But no, it's great. I want to talk actually a little bit about your nonprofit. I actually have a nonprofit, which you can look up. We are called No Clone Left Behind. Right. And No Clone Left Behind teaches about the propagation to plant life. And we actually have a 501c3, so we're actually a nonprofit. And we're trying to set up with nursing homes, addiction centers, not for cannabis, but for pepper plants. And you can do monsteras. There's a lot of different plants that can clone very, very easily. And you can even look up some of our classes that we've done locally. And we go in, we provide the dirt, we provide the plants, and we do a full education. So maybe, some of the people that you served, we could do a nonprofit organization and raise some money because I'm very good at raising money. Last year, we did $2,600 for breast cancer for my event, the Madman Plant Barbecue Smoke and Smokeout, which this year we are raising more money, and we'll be having our event on September 7th, which details are coming out soon, which is all about mental health and suicide prevention this time. So it's going to be very cool. But I think that's very important. When I was in Vegas, I spent a lot of time on Equity Row. I actually did an Equity Row report that MJ BizCon did share on their social media, where I talked to about 7 different vendors. And you are 100% right. As we do stay here and we talk about all the fun stuff about cannabis convictions and, arrests and all that are still very much in effect. You can still get locked up very easily here in Virginia and other places. And it's one of those things where it is great that we have a market in influencers and growers and all these companies can move forward. But it is important, like Free My Weed Man said, that, we see that this has been weaponized and used against us. And while it's great that I'm paraphrasing her words. Sure. She said, although it's great that people are winning awards and everybody's doing business, she said that we need to honor and respect and realize the lives that still have been destroyed and the families that have been torn apart and how this plan has been truly weaponized against us to incarcerate, to separate, and to adjust. And the fact that, that's why when we exclude, we're just hurting ourselves. Free my 40 tons. They write letters. I'm sure you do the same thing, and you're constantly working with people, helping them out. And the lives and the division that is separated is very real. And I'm glad that you appreciate that, because as a person, I'm very big into philanthropy and giving back. I actually spend a lot of time with the homeless. Me and Logan will buy a lot of dinners, and I don't really post about it because I don't really do it for clout. But the one thing that we were talking about earlier too was you have to have some grace. And I think in the reality sense, you have to realize that at the end of the day, we're all human. You know what I mean? And we bleed the same. A lot of us feel the same. And, it is a spectrum, like we were talking about earlier, where you could be incarcerated for cannabis, or you could be a millionaire for cannabis. You could just be a home grower for cannabis. You could just be somebody that works in the government that, hey, I can't wait till I retire and smoke. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's all sorts all over the board. Exactly right.
That's real. So talk a little bit more about your initiatives with your nonprofit. I'd love to learn more.
Well, Freedom Grows, basically, I shouldn't, it's not like really our nonprofit. We just work with them closely and basically are on the leadership of it. So just to be clear. But ultimately, we're heavily involved with its growth, and we want to help it grow farther and more because we find it to be sort of the most effective nonprofit that addresses the issues it addresses. And so, and we're a platform by which we can give, some awareness and voice to this. And, we're very connected to helping people get into retailers, or helping, growers, sell, or helping manufacturers sell, or people who are ancillary provide products or services or machines or what have you to other people. And so as you're doing that, you can basically, build up a really strong network of people who might be willing to sponsor events or round up, do a program in their retail that helps support, or, different things like that. So, ultimately Freedom Grow is an organization that, just helps prisoners that are there that shouldn't be, because they're there for nonviolent cannabis offenses. There are still thousands out there. And so until everybody's free, we really, do it. So ultimately, that's that's what we advocate for. We also like to work with veterans organizations. That's sort of like the league. That's also in line with sort of what you're talking about for a lot of reasons, not just mental health, but that's a big one. But for making sure that they have medicine, because we find that cannabis is very effective in addressing many of the issues that veterans face. And so, we want to always support that. My father was a veteran. We have a lot of veteran connections in the organization and in the business. We've, like I said, worked with several organizations that help veterans and cannabis kind of be united in various ways. Being in the know has also helped us establish relationships with people who are on the sort of front lines in terms of legislation and, really growing the entire industry or advocating for it in a lot of different ways that are influential. So we're very fortunate to know them and everybody in the business end of things. And so it helps put us in a place to aid, service the clients effectively, but hopefully provide some influence and some, a team or people that you can tap into that, can be looked at as people that you would, certainly your audience, people that look at us would look at as like good leaders or good advocates for what is needed, in the industry. If we're listening to our audience, then we should become that, right? Because our audience are those people. And if we're doing it correctly, then we should in turn become good sort of stewards of what is right. And we're learning with each other and creating that to a degree. And as we got more known, we are in a position to lead at least a little bit in this way. And we take that very seriously. I know others that don't. That's just to our benefit, quite frankly. So we're willing to, and we seek to. We understand that puts us in a certain radar with certain people, that's okay. We're all right with that. We're just going to continue to be ourselves and and talk to our audience that we're continuing to grow.
Oh, I love that. And that's the biggest thing is consistency, persistence, and discipline. Staying focused, staying able to provide the same type of, all right, we're going to get this done. All right, we're going to do this. All right, we're going to be successful. Hey, it's okay. Things will fall. The bus will, the wheels will fall off, whatever. Like the song says, we'll get out and we'll start walking. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where you don't quit. And I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people do. I was earlier today, and like I said, I'm not naming any names, but I was going through social media. So I can't speak right now. And I was just looking to see who's still around, and I went on several accounts, haven't posted since last year. It's consistency. And the real value is whether you're in Beard Bros, whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're just a person, it's not about the day to day. And if you focus on like the viewers or how many people are watching at one time, or the comments or the likes, it'll detract you from the real purpose and vision that you serve.
Right.
And if it's truly something that you serve and you find passionate and raw and just, genuine in your heart, all of that is created by the work that's created. Like it says, who, not how. Who's going to help you build that mountain or climb that mountain, not how you're going to climb the mountain. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I just see so many people just give up because they're not getting what they want out of it. And in life, that's the true test is do you want it enough to continue when you think you're not going to get it, because you're probably just this far away from whatever you really want and getting it.
It's also really tough when you build things with short-term thinking, or without passion or without sort of a purpose, like you're saying, attached to it, which a lot of people do because they see a quick money grab, or they see it as a way to take advantage of their network or their position that they've found themselves in, or what have you, as opposed to really having some like, hey, I want to build this. I want to put some stuff in. I don't care if you want to sell the thing. Like, I don't care if you're building it to sell. That's a strategy. It's fine for you to have. It's completely understandable. But doing that, in order to have it valuable, you'd want to have that heart in it. You'd want to have that passion attached to whatever it was, right? You'd want to be able to create it so that it would be valuable to sell, because that's what people want. They want valuable in terms of like asset light. You're not carrying a lot of like crazy stuff. You're not overspending, and you're doing the best you can, and you see a value and a path to growth, right? That's what anybody who's going to want to try to either spend money with you or invest in you is certainly going to want to find. So if that's what you want to go for, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's wrong. It's when you don't have the heart, or it's when you try to do it in a sort of predatory fashion, or when it's only about the money, right? And again, not saying it shouldn't be, that money shouldn't be motivational. It 100% should be, but it should be done in the context of what is allowed the most effective way to grow, what's the most effective way for you to grow your particular business. And that should be aligned to whatever your service, product, heart, ethos, etc. is. That doesn't have to be innocent and puppy dogs and ice cream either. It can be tough and hard, and it can be, it can be super strategic. It can be poking the bear. It can be rude. It can be disruptive. You can do whatever you want that way. Just don't screw people doing it. Like, again, there's a lot of like pro wrestling and like and sort of hip hop beef to competition if you play your cards right. Think about like Pepsi and McDonald's, or Pepsi and Coke. They don't actually actively try to destroy each other. They don't. They often poke fun at each other, right? They often, will sort of wink and nod to each other in that. Do you think that they're actively like, and sure, the like people in this region, the salespeople are trying to get their market share. So yes, there's natural competition that takes place, but are they actively trying to destroy each other's organizations? The answer is no. They're not. Right.
And honestly, some of it, and that's one thing too, is like, there's have you ever seen the pie chart of like how companies are owned and the breakdown of
also that's about 5 people anyways, and they're all friends. So
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey,
even if there's
let's type this up because people are going to choose sides. We're both going to make money, and let's have some friendly competition.
Let's have it be, friendly competition, so they say, or whatever it might be. Or maybe we do a little pro wrestling or hip hop beef with it, right? We do a little.
Or it's staged
PR around us,
like stuff. There was 2 rappers beefing. I forget the rappers and who they were, but the point of it was when the one dude met with the other dude, and he's like, "Just so you know, all that stuff that we're doing on TV, I don't even really believe in it. And it's like I'm just doing that for the numbers." He's like, "The reason I decided to meet with you was to tell you that if you want to make some real money with me instead of trying to battle me, let's go human lives, and we'll go make some real money." And when Jeff Bezos or Shaquille O'Neal met with Jeff Bezos told Shaquille O'Neal if he wanted to quadruple his money, start investing in things that change human life. Shaquille O'Neal says he's probably quadrupled his investments from that. And that's the reality, is serving others. And that comes from this entire conversation by morals and respect and virtue of how you conduct yourself and do business. Are you in it to win it, or are you in it to get rich quick? Because that guy does not usually stay around very long.
No, sometimes makes a big splash, gets the money, hurts a lot of people, but no, doesn't usually stay around a long time. Correct. Yeah, usually gets either rescued because he did create value and somebody bought it and did the right thing with it, or it flamed out and did what it's supposed to do, which was I was able to work a bunch of people up a bunch of money for a couple of years, get a pretty good nest egg. I'm going to go to the next grift. Somewhere else, which is what I suspect a lot of them have done. These people who've come in and swooped in and try to be like influential and influencers in the space, but really they're just like, good at LinkedIn, those people are like, those people come in and everybody gets, oh gosh, they're so amazing. They're so amazing. And
it's like, what do they do?
And they lift under the kimono and all bullshit. And then they go away and they go to, I don't know, toothpaste or whatever the next grift is and do that for a minute and pitch their whatever, bullshit that they're pitching. And so, ultimately there's too much of that too, but you have to just, again, I implore people, vet people, vet us, right? If you don't like what you see, then we probably wouldn't want to work with you anyways, because we're pretty cool. We're transparent. We do our best we can. We'll be as honest with you as humanly possible without being stupid. Right. And I think you should respect that. I'm the kind of guy, if I can't tell you something, I'll say, I'll tell you that. Right? If we can't pay for something, we're going to tell you a month before, not 10 days after.
Or like 2 months after.
Or worse. I'm being very nice to everyone by saying that. I understand. But yes, you're right. It's about it's like how you move, it really matters. It doesn't matter in terms of like, we need to be all kumbaya, hunky dory, even though that's cool. It's better when you have that, but it's really more about like what that means for you and your long-term success, really. And people do not see there's a lot of metaphors here, but the forest through the trees, right? Or the, or the bigger picture, or the, it's hard to focus on. And I get it. A lot of this is scarcity. A lot of this is not a misunderstanding, ignorant to where the position you find yourself in. We can go down the line of all the factors that have been forced have to consider, right? And I understand that you might be more apt to do that because you don't want to do the hard work to get the background or get the experience in that way. You want to continue to grow. You want to focus on the money. I get all this. So you make your own damn decisions. I'm just telling you what I've seen over the course of my life and what's conducive to the industries I've been in and what I've seen. I'm somebody who's fortunate to have been trained by people and to be experienced in a wide variety of industries and a lot of different funding and either bootstrapped or larger organizations. So I do feel like I have a pretty good idea about commonalities between people who are entrepreneurial in those spaces. And I can tell you what we're talking about today holds true, right? It does. Like, I know it's easy. Well, this person barks and they make a big money and yada, 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 right? Think about it in the long term. Think about it in like 25-year blocks or 10, right? It might seem like they were something big because they were there and everywhere for like a year and a half, 2. But when they're not authentic, or when they don't have a genuine sort of to them, they come in and out. They lose their punch, or either what they were pushing, is achieved, and so they lose their sort of angle, right? You're seeing this a ton now with right-wing media, not because they're any better or worse than they ever were. It's because that's what's in power now. So people are honestly excited about listening to, controversy, and it's harder for them to come up with stories because they're in power. And so, right, anything that happens is on them, and ultimately, I think that's just one of many examples you can point to. Again, having grace goes back to essentially being open to a lot of different things, and sometimes about what you don't say, and how you handle yourself in that way.
Well, yeah, and it's not how you respond; it's how you respond. Somebody once told me that, and when you think about it, you're like, that makes no sense. But then when you think about it, you're like, it does make sense, because and that's where the devils are in the details. And it's great to operate with somebody and very fun and dandy when everybody's happy. But when you're in a business situation and people get unhappy, you have to have an ability to handle yourself and your emotions, or that can ruin your relationships 100%. More than your talent will ever.
5 minutes of a blow up could ruin years of money making together. I've seen it happen. I've seen one conversation turn so bad. I've seen it many times that literally people who are making pretty darn good money together blew it all up because the egos were bruised pretty severely, or things were said that it's hard to walk back from.
Well, and that's why it's so important. And when I dealt right after my event, I was dealt with a whole like nuclear bomb worth of adversity towards my brand, me, and everything. And I remained silent. I never said anything. And that upset a lot of people too, and said, look, he's not even just saying anything. But as a business, as a brand, as somebody that cares about the integrity of what people think and what I'm trying to do, how can I be all about mental health and then be thrashing in the comments, and I mean, telling someone to go off, off themselves or something like that. Nobody's going to listen to me.
Trashing people, correct?
Exactly, and what sometimes
even they deserve it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and sometimes the hardest thing to do, because you're a business, is to keep your mouth shut. And that also, like you said, can not only just ruin your business deals, but it could kill your entire brand. It could kill your business. And, people, remember, they want you to be successful, just not more successful than they are. Right. You know what I mean? And that's true. And I don't care who you are, but that's the reality of it.
Right. That's right. They care, but they don't care that much.
Mm-hmm.
They care, but they don't care that much. They don't. They'd rather you be swimming, everything's going fine, you tap in, right? Like, it's with those people that like aren't there for the tough times, but they're cool to be around sometimes, right?
Good time Charlies is what my grandfather calls them.
There you go, right? Everything's good, we're cool, everything's good, right? So you kind of either you have your fake version of that because things aren't good, or maybe things aren't, so it's easy to be around those kind of folks, right?
Or it's good for them to be around you.
Correct. Yes. You're not wrong there. So point is, yes, like, you really have to sort of, it's a nice balance and it's tough. Like, mentally, it's a really kind of an interesting thing to have to, especially when you're so close to what you do. You want it to be as personal as possible because you're so passionate about it. You spend so much time putting effort into it, right? So the people that you're working with, yes, you're a little baby. You want to basically bring everybody in, show them all the things and show them all the different stuff. You want to talk about it obsessively. You should have that passion 100% for whatever you do. That said, it's like I can't remember who said this quote, but I post it sometimes and I've said it a bunch of times. Like, there's only 2 rules in business, right? One is never tell anybody everything.
That's my problem.
And number two, essentially, it's none of your fucking business. You know what I mean?
That's actually that is honestly, if you can learn that phrase, that can save a lot of vulnerability in your business. You know, is saying, hey, you know, that's none of your business. You know, especially when you're in the building stages.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you don't have it all together.
You can be very respectful and just be like, hey, you know, honestly, I appreciate the question. I'm totally excited about it too. Really in a position where I shouldn't be able to talk about that right now. So if you don't mind, I'm going to sort of like skip ahead to the other stuff. But I promise you, when I'm allowed to talk about it, I swear I'll tell you right away. I do look forward to the opportunity to do it. We're just under NDA. We've got some things to have to clear before we do that. Why can't you say that? You can say that. You can say that to somebody. If they push back, tell them, hey, I said it once, thanks. And if they push back again, tell them to fuck off and hang up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're being rude.
You can fire your clients, and that's another power move that most people underutilize.
That's right. If you feel like you're getting taken advantage of.
Well, I actually just did in my own business. One of my customers cussed me out and said that now this is not cannabis related. This is video production related.
Sure.
But he's failing business anyway, so he's miserable. So it's not my fault.
Right.
But anyways, he was saying that pretty much I have no value, and I didn't lose my cool. And, you know, I terminated his agreement. And yes, it's a good amount of money coming in each month. But I also talked about in the college when I spoke about good money versus bad money. And
100%.
Good money is where you get money for doing a job and you feel valued, they feel valued, and you feel like everything really went well and the customer is going to be really excited with the outcome. Bad money is where they give you money, they degrade you, they question you, they nitpick every little thing and try to act like they're the professional, even though they hired a professional. And they don't build any trust in you. And when the project's over, they don't ever pay gratitude to what you did. They think it's just their business got better because they got better. And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. That's bad business because see, I don't feel, I just receive. And if I don't feel like you and I, we're passionate people. So emotion and energy and how we feel is a big part of our motivation and our drive behind this. And if we don't feel that, especially with ADHD, you know, that can really offset me, you know, and it's like, why deal in that emotion when I could go find 10 more people who really want me around, who really appreciate what I have to offer, and who are going to think that I'm great? Because how are we as individuals going to get to that next level if we're not around people that are pushing us up that ladder to that next level, you know? And that's the same thing with people in their friendships, their marriages, their relationships. It's not just business we're talking about tonight.
Yeah. You got to set boundaries, right? You got to, you know, basically manage expectations. You know, you sometimes have to be strategic with people you love. That's very difficult to handle because you just want it to be open and free. And those are the best relationships, right? The ones that are just easy, you get each other, you know, and you want to seek that. But as a business or as a person, you might be in a position where you have to entertain a whole lot of different options, right? In terms of that. So yes, this is ideal, but where's your breaking point? Or where's the point where it's too much? And is that good or bad? And should you adjust that, right? Are you giving away too much? Are you expecting too much, right? These are all things that we, you know, definitely go through in all facets of our, you know, existence, to your point, right? But there are also principles that you can use to help yourself sort of center and maybe grow, right? From a point, whether it's spiritually or physically, mentally, with friends, family, relationships, or business, right? You know, it's all about sort of finding that balance that's right for you. And if you think about your organization or your brand as that, you really have a chance to like do something. Because if you really think of it as like a core that needs to be built and grown and nurtured and, you know, sculpted and developed over time, just like any hobby or friendship or relationship of any kind, or business relationship or project or anything that we put our mind and body and souls to, whether it's this important or that important. The idea is that we finish it, that we do it together, and then maybe we do it easier the next time, or we don't have to do it again because we did it the one time, or whatever the goal is. And they make it easier and more effective, right? it's that way when you're talking with somebody. That's like when people fall in love. They're like, it was just easy. Like we just connected and it was all right there. We started talking. We wanted to talk more. It was just boom, 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 and it was all right there. It was like they'd always been. Like these are common things you hear with people who are completely stupid in love with each other, right? You're right. And they'll say it. They're like, yeah, it's dumb. Like I don't even, it's crazy. I didn't know this Disney shit existed. Whatever. Right? Like so, ultimately, yes, you're looking for that kind of energy in your relationships, right? The optimal, right? And you want to find out what that is. And if optimal, you can get as much of it as possible because it's going to be valuable for you in all ways, shapes, and forms, right? But how do you deal with the rest of it? And how can you make it, valuable for yourself? Because not everybody's going to parameters for you. Not everybody's going to be ideal. Not everybody's going to feel the same way or be the same passion. Not everybody's going to care about the same things you do. Hell, some people are going to believe in things that you totally disagree with, that you're going to have to either work with, deal with, exist with, or whatever. What are you going to do? Are you going to try to be adversarial? I don't know. Does it fit your brand? I mean, I don't know. Do you have are you going to justify your moves? That's all you really got to do is justify and basically, be who you say you're going to be, right? Whether I agree with it or not, or I'd move like that, kind of inconsequential, really, right? You're making the decisions ultimately. But I would pay attention to what most people are doing or what most people would try to move in that situation, because either that's an easy way to just go, yep, that's the obvious choice, let me do that, or you put your little spin on it to make it better, right? But I would pay attention to what other people are doing, right? Or what you're taught by people who care about you unconditionally. Not but you should very much take those advice or the development that you get from those sources very seriously. People who love you unconditionally, or they're giving you time, and they're not expecting anything in return except for to have that time with you, right? Those are the most valuable people, And if you can get yourself into circles where all those people are also, influential in your space, and and you guys have a lot in common and all that stuff, that's how you can really get to spaces where you're doing some really important things together, or you're developing a great relationship with somebody, or a great opportunity, right? So it's really about getting that face time, or that communication, or just being really clear, with each other. That gives you the best fighting chance.
100% agreed. And I think the biggest thing is everybody should have an operating agreement for everything. I'm just kidding.
It's in writing for most things you're doing, for sure. Especially if there's money attached, and anybody who's cool with
100%.
Anybody who's cool with you is going to be cool with a contract or a referral agreement being put in front of their face, and they're going to sign it based on the parameters y'all agreed to, on the call or when you did it. So. Don't act like
people anything without operating agreement, because two is like
big red flag if people act like that's not cool or whatever. Oh, we don't care. Let's just go. Nah, be careful when people try to do shit like that.
No, because people forget, things change. Their buddy all of a sudden is in town, and now that space has to go to his buddy. We
didn't know we'd lose 25% of our growth in the 3 months that we were doing. No. Get what you're supposed to do, set in stone, agreed to, put your parameters in. If there's no adjustments that need to be made, or avenues by which you can call for adjustments, do that. I think that's fair, especially if you don't know how the volume that you're going to hit, or if there's a lot of sort of growth that could be potentially happening. Give yourself mechanisms in place and regular meetings with the partner to discuss different adjustments to the contract. It's okay. And it's okay to adjust said contracts as you get going. And you don't have to wait unless the time is baked into the cake already. So all this stuff about people will give you, lawyers, you got to do this, that. If people want to, they can get it done quick. And if they don't, they take their time. Just remember that. People who really are about it and want to do things, they'll find a way to do it, or at least basically be in super strong contact with you about how you're going to be able to get it done, after maybe a negotiation is made, or at a point you've agreed to sort of at least verbally move forward. They're going to be more and more interested. They're going to give you more time, not less. And so remember that when you're reaching out to people or considering options, remember two things. Everybody is really looking out for number one. So just always keep that in the back of your head. Doesn't mean these aren't great people, right? If we were to do business, I would expect that you would be looking out for yourself first and then considering us next. I would be doing that, right? So that's okay. Like, we should acknowledge that we're doing that. Cool, good. So we're going to put ourselves and our families first. Good, we should. And then we're going to put our businesses next, and then we're going to put our partnership after that. So don't put me in positions where I'm trying to prioritize things that you already know are higher priority for me, because I won't do that over you. So don't put me in positions that screw with that. I'm not going to do that to you, right? That's the least we can do for each other, right? Let's acknowledge that, okay, we all have better priorities. You've got clients that pay you a certain amount, and even though we're working together, I shouldn't expect that certain value from you because these people are paying you this, and you have to work at that level for them. So, if I'm doing half or a third of that, then that's probably what I should expect from the service or from the business or from the relationship, right? If you want more, explore ways to get it, or be settled with that, or break it and reconvene at another time when it's more, beneficial to you both, right? It's all, and then that brings it back to what? Communication, right? Be honest with your people that you're messing with about where you're at and what you want to do. Period. Don't overextend yourself, but don't underpromise or don't underdeliver either, right? So don't give away too much, but also don't do so much that you can basically be taken advantage of.
That's true.
Way too much, right? It's a fine line for everybody. I'm not the one in charge of your margins or your growth or how you want to build your business. But I would say if you focus on those things, you have a pretty, ironically enough, a better chance of growing effectively and doing more of what you want than if you worry about those things or your reaction. So the more you can prepare, the better. Or the more you can be transparent up front, the better.
100%. All right. Well, do you want to keep going, or are you good?
No, I'm good, but I mean, it's been a minute, but you're right. It went by like it was 45 minutes.
Did I tell you?
You weren't lying, though. It flew by pretty quick. No lie.
I tell everybody that. Everybody's like, I don't know if I'm going to have anything to say for 2 hours. That's a pretty long time. And I'm like,
I knew I would be fine there. I was just like, I wonder how long I could go. I could go a long time. I'm a talker.
I think our longest one is almost 4 hours long.
Makes sense. Sure. I can easily crush out a 5.
What I would love to do is see if we could get a panel together. I just posted an LGBTQI panel, AI panel that went very well. And I had, it went very, very well. You can watch it on YouTube. And we had community members from all different aspects of that community on. And it was a really good conversation. And I would love to have another one more on maybe like the dispensary and product side, or more like the educational side, and maybe bring
a lot of different resources to help you like grow, promote, maybe, or even stuff around growing. Because
I love that, because we're doing a huge grow series.
Right. So like maybe it's like different levels of growers or different types of growers that all are willing to talk together about the different ways that they grow, because they all respect each other's sort of, right? You got an indoor large, outdoor large, home grower that's large, home grower that's just growing small, right?
Yeah.
You get kind of a mix of different people, and from different regions too. You could end up talking about sort of all sorts of interesting considerations. Like for the types of people that watch us, they want us to get into the nerdy stuff, like how climate affects the ability to grow this much, and different techniques and tips and tools to utilize, and and all that good stuff. So it doesn't have to be totally like political or controversial or anything.
Oh no, I love it. I mean,
we're saying like the different ways that they grow the plant and best practices and stuff like that. That could be fun.
No, we should. And because we've done paranormal activity, we've done UFOs, we've done, we had the aliens in space night where we had a whole bunch of stuff on. We've done millionaire mindsets. We've done a couple panels.
Right in line with that kind of a thing. So yeah, maybe we've stumbled on something here.
Yeah, there we go. It'll be awesome.
Yep. Could easily do that. It wouldn't be too hard for us to put together given what we do. So, let's continue to talk, sir. I look forward to it. And thanks for having me on. I really do appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk about Beard Bros Pharms and media and product line and our media services, and how we help everybody, and how we can help you grow, generate leads, sales, etc. through advertising, events, all the different platforms.
Well, you guys have all been very nice to me, and we have our own discussions going on in the background, and it's one of those things where it's supporting each other, building those relationships. you know, hey, I have a couple seeds. Hey, I have some dirt. Hey, I got the water. You know, we got a plant. You know, so
it's not unlike that. You're not wrong. Like there still is that element to it, and honestly, I think across business, but you know that's sort of how it went back in the day. You know, and that's still that way here in our world today. It's kind of fun. I mean, there's a lot of good parallels about how it used to be and how it still is that are good. You know, that are really great, right? Like building together, sharing, doing, you know, things collaboratively, but also, you know, staying in your lane and making sure that you grow your own stuff the best, not worrying too much about what everybody else is doing, just sort of being there.
it's
You know,
one thing to be part of a community garden and have your own garden. It's not a thing when you're just here to be a part of the community garden, but you can't garden on your own. You know what I mean?
Personally, I think if you're doing it right, to further your metaphor, you care about everybody involved in the community garden. You care about all the different people growing at the community garden. You're really interested in what they're doing from a selfish and a noble perspective.
Yep.
You're also willing to hopefully really look at yourself and see where you reside, but you also should think you're the best. You should also think that you're the best grower, or that you have the capabilities of being the best, and that your
absolutely
is the most effective and the most intense and the most, you know, the most efficient, right?
Because in a way, that would be 100%.
What are you doing otherwise? You know, like if you don't think that you can be in the lane you're trying to carve out for yourself, what are you doing, right? And nobody's saying you have to grow into like the biggest agriculture company in the history of life. I get it. You know, like maybe you just want to be craft for one state or certain people or whatever, but be the best that you want to be. And you should believe that you are, that you're doing something innovative, that you're doing something effective, whether it's for this much of a market or this much of a market, whether you want to grow at a stupid fast pace or a very logical, calculated, you know, pace. It doesn't matter. You should still think that you're the best at what you're doing and you're super skilled at what you're doing. If you do not have that belief in the people that you're working with, and especially yourself, you're crumbling already. It's what leads to these flawed organizations that are built on sticks and crumble easily if you just look under the hood, you know? It's because the people that started them don't have the heart. They don't have the guts. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the skill, and they know it. And they're really just sad and scared, really, when it comes down to it. And ultimately, if you just build to be strong, and I don't mean strong like masculine, I mean strong, just hearted, company, build foundation, be stable, right? Be able to adjust to change, be able to grow, be able to pivot when you need to. You can compete better. You can exceed those people who are cutting corners and you see sort of flying past you a couple of times as you're growing. Do not pay attention to those shiny objects. They go away as fast as they flew past you. It's when you pay attention to them that you stall your own growth. You know, so you have to you need to be aware that they exist. You need to be aware of what they're doing, but you cannot let them influence your direction.
No, very well said. And that's one of the biggest things is it has to be for you. And the sooner that you fall in love with yourself and what you're doing and who you serve and the value that you bring, you'll almost forget that those people that you compare yourself to even exist. And after a while, you'll stop even looking at whatever it is that was once, you know, in the way.
You literally won't care, and not in the rude way. You just won't care.
Because you're so busy serving your God and yourself and your initiatives. You know, there's your reality and then there's the world. And your reality, of course, you're the best because you're the person running your reality. So if I go and clean my bathroom, that's the best I can do it because I'm going to be the one doing it.
Maybe
but
best
the world,
right? But it could be like I'm doing it at the optimal level for me, right?
Yeah.
See, that's your goal. That's okay. That's stupid awesome too. Like I get it, right? Maybe it's not about being the best. I get it. And, for me, maybe a little more. But like,
I want to be the best.
But I do. But like, I get people who would say, well, really, it's just about becoming the best you can be or being the optimal way of yourself. I agree. So if that's your stance, I think we're saying sort of the same things. I just maybe
absolutely. Well, the difference is there's extraordinary people and then there's ordinary people. You know, extraordinary people like you and I want just a little bit more. You know, ordinary people like my dad, who is very smart, very high level engineer. He wanted to go to his 9 to 5, And when he was off work, he didn't want to think about work. He didn't want to do work. He didn't want anything. He just wanted to enjoy his life. For you and I, we can't stop thinking about our work. In fact, I'm like you probably. I dream about my interactions and like going to conventions and talking to people and
I mean, you gotta visualize, you've gotta like manifest, you've gotta like believe it. So part of believing it is like visualizing it and then basically going for it. You know, you often don't get there exactly how you might map it out, even on paper, but certainly in your head, but you get there. And if you believe, you will, and you'll continue to build. And yes, be willing to take pivots, because again, you might think, oh God, this is taking me way away from what I thought I'd do. And then you're going to blink, and right then you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm so glad I did this, because now I'm even better at what I dreamed of doing. Right. Yeah. Or I can do it even more effectively. Or I met the person that helped me get there. Right. Whatever it is, you know, be open. I mean, don't make decisions that put yourself in a tough spot, but also without risk, you know, without large risk, you know, no large rewards for you. So a small risk.
Nelson Mandela says there's no glory in playing small.
Yeah, I can't get over those things. And so many mentors I've had in all sorts of different walks of life, male, female, old, young, you know, straight, gay, everything. That's pretty much a consistent from all of them, you know, are things that we're talking about today. So, you know, it's basically consistency and saying what you can do, not letting naysayers really affect your growth. So people who had it a lot harder than me and had it a lot more difficult than I did, simply because they look a certain way or are a certain way, are saying that about growth for them when they have it harder than me. That's probably something I should listen to. That's probably something I should absorb for myself and for life. Right.
Well, that's the part of your, you know, your main describing word tonight, which is grace. And that's part of that. And that's having the grace to appreciate and understand, you know, either people are having their moment or, you know, somebody's, you know, in a bad place, whatever, and being able to either look past that or move on.
Yep.
You know?
And whether that's selfish or noble, it doesn't really matter. Like if you're motivated because you're like, I can't let them see me sweat because it's gonna like give them an advantage on me strategically. That's true. So have a good poker face and don't get triggered when you get fucking put to task. Somebody goes out of line, or even if you deserved it and somebody's on you, you got to make sure you're kind of yourself in those moments, not reactionary and maybe doing something that you will really regret, that will really put you in a defensive, in a bad spot, because it is about leverage to a degree, or at least the ability to stand on something, as a lot of kids today say, right? To stand on business, you actually have to be about business, you know?
Yep.
And so that's basically what I'm saying, is no one's going to say it's all puppy dogs and ice cream. It is not. You're going to have hard conversations. You're going to screw up. You're going to piss people off. You're going to be off on money. You're going to have stuff that doesn't get paid on time or whatever, or there's going to be miscommunication. People are going to be even more itchy triggered because they've been worked over in the past. So you got to be very cognizant of that. You have to be very, very transparent. You have to be very understandable. And again, it's about showing grace, but it's also about not getting old. And you have to find that balance. I'm sorry, it's tough. Life, you know. But that's what you have to achieve. If you at least know that much, I think you got a fighting chance to like do something. If you understand that's life, you know, where you have to find this balance between like my needs, greater good, doing something that aligns with me. I don't necessarily have to fall victim to sort of what I'm pressured to do if I don't want to, but it's okay to sort of listen to it if I do feel compelled in my heart to follow that, because if I have a leg up, it might be advantageous for me to take it. Right. But if I don't want to, I should feel comfortable enough to do that. If I'm being nurtured by people, they should respect my choices regardless. And if you're not getting any of that, if any of that what I said in your life is negative or doesn't happen because you're with so-and-so, or your family does this, or your people you work closely with do that, you might want to consider cutting the cord. You might
100%. And family things where that could honestly be the cord that needs to be cut more than the strangers that you know in your life.
You know,
like how do we get to that level unless we're in a room of people who want us to get to that next level?
That's right. So try to find yourself in those rooms and try to make yourself in those rooms. rooms, right? And when you get in those rooms, try to grow from those rooms, but also take people with you if you can, you know, especially the ones that deserve it because they helped you get through the room.
Yeah, I love Richard Branson's quote, which is treat your employees well enough that they can leave you. Wait, hold on. Oh, hold on.
I know this one too. You know, this is us being stoners.
Yeah.
It's in my heart, and I can't think of it right now either.
Train your people well enough so they can leave, but treat them well enough so they don't want to.
That's right. You know, also I love that. I do too, and I would add to that: never expect anybody who you're sort of working with, you know, as a vendor or that you've hired or that you're sort of working to build your vision with to ever be as passionate as you are about it.
100%, and that's a naive belief that somebody's going to love your business like as much as you
You're
will.
lucky if you can create the type of relationship that Richard Branson is encouraging you to create in that quote, which is treat your damn employees and the people that you basically are building with or that you created this with that have given up their lives for your vision. I can't think of anything more powerful to create than someone saying, you know what, I'm cool not really tapping into my stuff now. I'm going to ride yours because it's going to be more lucrative for me, my family, my earnings. You know, I love it enough to do this, right? But you didn't come up with it. So don't ever think that somebody's going to be that fortunate. Just put them in a position like Richard Branson saying, where it's all undeniable because that good feeling is permeating throughout everybody you work with because you're doing all the great things and you're being who you say you're going to be. And you're doing what you say you're going to do. You're doing what you're obligated to do. Not just contractually, but, you know, soft skills wise, extra, right? Those are really what make people sort of, you know, go, damn, they're so awesome. You know, or man, that's a lot of fun. Or man, I wouldn't want to leave, right? Like I could get paid maybe a little bit more elsewhere, but I wouldn't want to, right? Like you hear people say that only with places that are lovely. However, if I heard somebody say that, I'd be like, what are you getting? Who's paying you more? Where? Why? And then I would try to adjust, you know, depending on how valuable that intel was and that position was. But yeah, so, you know, obviously, you know, you just want to make sure that you're, you know, building good relationships, really. That's what it's all about, truly. And communicating effectively. That way you can try to get everything you want. Doesn't really matter sort of your, you know, personality in that regard, as long as you're able to convey what you mean what you say, and establish some boundaries and hold people accountable. You know, there's a lot of ways to do that. You know, so I encourage everybody to do those things. And thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
No, you're trying to get to that 4-hour mark, huh? You want to?
No, we just keep talking. We keep trying to wrap up, and then we go another 10 minutes because we can't help ourselves. Is what's happening.
That's good conversation. That's how you know it's real and it's organic, and you know the vibe is going, and that's what it takes in business. Is what we were much talking about too. Is when it feels so natural that things are able to move easily and there's less resistance, and you know time flies when you're having fun. But yeah, we can definitely wrap it up. I really appreciate you being on. I love what Beard Bros do. I love what you do. It's really great, and not all the time do people value these conversations like they should. But tonight there's a lot of free game about life and business and mythology of how you should conduct yourself that could really impact, you know, your next dollar or your next idea. So it's very important that, you know, as much as we try to professionalize ourselves as growers, that we're also professionalizing ourselves as humans, which leads me back to my quote and philosophy of Madman Plant, which I'm soon about to have wrapped on my ceiling.
Nice.
Which, oh yes. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Which is, how can you grow a great garden if you can't grow a great human? Yeah. And that's something I've been saying for about almost 2 years now.
Yep.
And that is my quote and my philosophy. And the idea is plants represent instant gratification. In 3 to 6 months, I can have a harvest. In 3 to 6 months of changing my life, I may not see anything. And that's the power of instant gratification, is I can see I'm benefiting But why, when it takes money, resource, education, time, network, community, and all these things that you're going to put into this plant, but then you are not going to take those same applied efforts, which you are now capable of, and apply this into changing your own life and growing your life like you do your garden. And that's one thing I can't understand with people is sometimes I feel like some people care more about their plants than they do about their lives. And believe me, these plants will continue to grow. Your opportunity to go out there, get what you want in this world and make it yours. Billy Joel has a quote in the song Vienna that says very clearly, you can get what you want or you can just get old. And I don't want to just get old. I want to get what I want because believe me, getting old can be on a scale too. And you can end up in a state home and nobody wants that shit. You know what I mean? Like,
there's a lot of things can happen in the snap of a finger, whether you're old or young. So you should always remember that as you're, traveling day to day, take that chance, right? Like tell the person the thing, establish that boundary. Do not live in frustration, pain, limbo, chaos any longer than you choose to, and you can do things about that. So do them.
Well, very cool. Well, before we get off, I want to thank you for being on. I also want to thank our gold sponsor, Dry Flower, our silver sponsor, Current Culture, and our smoke sponsor, Canna Scoops. If you guys want to follow more, this Sunday we will be live for the very first time up in the grow room with everything, going through a whole DIY and FAQ about the system that I'm using from Current Culture H2O. And right now we're actually rooting our clones. Our clones look very, very nice with some really thick white clones shooting out right on the sides. So as soon as they get about 6 to 8 inches long, we can go ahead and plug those into the system and get this rolling. My friend GI, I gifted him one of the systems called a UC undercurrent, which is what it stands for. And then that's the Current Culture H2O setup. And that's a Solocom. And it's a small version of what I have. The version that I'm using is a little bit new and is not completely out yet, which is pretty cool. But the UC Solocom is the single version of what I have, and it is a great way. And this is designed for a 7 to 10 day veg period and flipping straight into flower. So if you guys are interested in fast growth, perpetual growth cycles, and learning a little bit of DWC, Sunday will be a great episode for you guys to tune into. And if you want to see our calendar, all of our dates to the end of the year have already been planned out on YouTube, and you can just add them to your calendar. So on the April 28th, we have our live giveaway. We're giving away an 8-gallon Solocom system that is by Current Culture. Dry Flower is also doing a giveaway, and Canna Scoops will be giving away some stuff as well as King Palm. Nice. So that's our game night on April 28th. So on the beginning, first Sunday of each month is DWC with Madman Plant. Fourth Sunday of each month is Madman's game night. So and chill session every Wednesday, as long as I have a guest lined up, will be our normal podcast. And then it's going to be awesome. And I can't wait for more, Brian. Thank you so much again for being on. Stay on right when I end this, and everybody have a wonderful night.
Good to see you, everybody.